Ladies and gents, welcome back. It's been a week again, a whole other week. Here we are. It's Friday evening. I missed last week, and holy cow, I'm having detox tremors from not being able to live stream with you guys every week like I normally do. And hey, welcome back. It looks like a lot of you guys are already in the chat. Unacceptable Fringe already with the super chat. $15 super chat. Let's get this chat going. Yo, dog, I heard you like live streams, so I'm chatting in your live stream while watching your live stream while being in your live stream. Hot lips out. Yeah, hot lips. So Derek got the just a little meta live streaming stuff going on right there. So Derek is in the side of things. Him and Vesper D are going to be joining me later in the stream, so we're going to have a fun chat. I'm looking forward to that. That's going to be a lot of fun. But also the hot lips comment. So recently, oh man, I have to get this video now. I don't have it queued up. I have it somewhere. Where is it? Oh, Derek, you're going to have to send me your clip now because I don't. Oh, I have it. I'm going to queue this up. Holy cow.
No, you can't.
You can't. I can't hold people back from this one. So Derek Smith, he just got to 5,000 subscribers on his YouTube channel. He's largely successful when it comes to book sales, but you know, YouTube is a slow crawl for a lot of us. And he just reached the milestone of 5,000 subscribers, and he decided, hey, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna do a big challenge, and he got the Packy one chip challenge, which was largely a mistake on his part. So hey, why don't we just go and watch that clip, because it was just way too funny. I ended up taking the last little few minutes of his stream, and I edited a little special clip so we can all watch it together here. And whoa, I gotta get the stuff going. I am so late to the show. But hey, why not? Better late than never, right? Isn't that what they say? Anyway, here's the clip of Derek doing the Packy one chip challenge.
You can smell it. Holy crap. You want to smell it? It's brown. It doesn't smell very appetizing, I got to be honest. Should I die? It's been my pleasure to get ourselves to 5,000 subs. I'm really hoping for 10,000 at some point. Okay, so it's burning already. The dust, the Carolina Reaper dust on there is brutal. And it's stuck in my teeth. The chip is stuck in my teeth.
That's not the worst of your problems, buddy.
10 minutes on the clock. Holy crap. Holy shit. I'm already getting hiccups. That chip had a lot of dust on the chip that as soon as it touched my mouth, yes, it burned. Oh my god, guys. I'm not gonna make it.
No, you're not.
That dust
all
came off onto my tongue. My throat's closing up.
Do you want me to go get the milk?
I'm gonna end the stream. I don't care if it makes me look like a pussy. I'm ending the stream. I'm getting hiccups and my throat's closing up. Have a great weekend, guys. I'll be back Tuesday when the long weekend ends with a new video. Enjoy your...
That was it. That was the whole stream. That was the end of it. It ended like that, and it was just so brilliant. I couldn't let that go without becoming a thing for the internet to see forever and ever, and memorialize that moment in time. And that was something that Derek Smith brought us. It was a beautiful thing. But poor guy ended up drinking a ton of milk. He's also lactated, which doesn't help. It doesn't help. So I'll talk about that later when we get him in to talk about this stuff. But hey, sorry we had to miss live streaming last week. For those of you that are new, by the way, this is the live stream. If you're new to the channel, every Friday we do a live stream at the end of the week just to do a recap, because I do videos every single morning, every single weekday morning, talking about news that's happening around Canada, sometimes world news, sometimes American news, but mostly Canadian news for the most part. And we get in touch with what's happening. I try to keep people notified, or keep people up to date with what's happening in our country at the moment, and what should be kind of on your radar. And obviously the media loves to spin things, and I love to spin them right back into common sense. Hey, Trish Prue with the $11 super chat. I guess Amazon likes Derek more than Tamara. I ordered Derek's Hold the Line on Wednesday. I got it today. Nice. And I'm glad to hear that, because we've been looking into this, and there's been some discrepancies, some weird stuff happening, and it seems to be going one way. You seem to hear more about it on one sort of political leaning than you do on the other political leaning. And it seems to be, I don't know, it's sus to say the least. And I'm not making any affirmative statements here. I'm just saying we're looking into it. And I wanted to get on aggregate people's experiences out there on the internet and see what people are experiencing themselves, because we would like to put together sort of a broader picture of all of this and what's happening to these books that are being sold on the Amazon platform. As we know, we saw in recent times with the Twitter files that there was, in fact, an open door between governments and the back end of these social media platforms. I don't think Amazon is so much different, especially when we saw some of the stuff that Amazon Web Services was willing to do with other websites and denial of service and other things that they've done in the past. So it's kind of right up, it's par for the course. It could be, or it could just be a figment of our imaginations, but we definitely want to investigate this and not throw dirt where there, you know, maybe isn't something there, but actually ask the community about their experiences, because it's really odd how Amazon, especially with the way they publish books, how you can't audit your entire catalog. You can't audit all of your sales. You have to only audit each individual sale at a time, and you can only do that if you have the order numbers, and that's on the other side of things. That's on the other end of things, and you don't know if there's something going on if you don't get complaints from the consumer, and that's largely where we're at. And hey, where we're at right now is at 101 likes with 274 people watching the live stream. Hey, why don't you reach on down, hit that little like button. It's an amazing thing that the algorithm, what they do, it's not a person with a real brain and a real mind. It's a robot programmed to basically say, hey, if a lot of people are liking this thing, I'm going to suggest this out to more people with a similar type of taste as you guys, and you guys have the best taste on the internet, obviously. That's why you're here on a Friday night hanging with yours truly and with each other, of course, in the chat. And I always love having the chat here on Friday night. Damn, Clyde, let's hope the Liberals are gone. Well, that's, well, we'll see what happens there. And I'm not really being hyperbolic on this one. I'm actually talking about Justin Trudeau destroying the Liberal Party and anything left of it. Will anybody trust the Liberals moving forward? Because he's destroying the old legacy. He's taking people out of their coffins, you know, virtually. He's taking Paul Rouleau, he's taking David Johnston, and he's pulling them, pulling them out of nursing homes to come in and lie for him and make up fibs in order to save his skin from his corruption. And not just any kind of corruption these days. I know forever politicians, they love to skim off the top, but we're talking about politicians selling out our country to a communist dictatorship. And that's really where we're at. Nathaniel Racine with a 220 super chat. Get those likes up. Get them up, folks. We can do it. I know you can do it. You got it in you. I'm sure you do. The WHO treaty is red alert. I agree with you 100%. It can't be expressed enough how important it is. Yes, and it's there's some dirty players at the top of that food chain. Don't want to give up our sovereignty to a bunch of people who don't have our best interests at heart, and that's absolutely correct. Vander Key and Locke. Dixon, thank you so much. We need to do something. Vote. I love your channel and style of reporting. Honk, honk. Thank you so much, my man. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Thank you for reading that. Of course. Yeah, no, I care about what's going on at the World Health Organization. I mean, I would care less if they had zero power. That's kind of where I hope they are. I hope they just, go off into the land of lobby groups when lobby groups have hardly any power over, the average citizen of a country. But unfortunately, this is where we are, and we're in a position, a unique position in time where essentially the government holds so much power now that we all have to vie for the power, because if we don't, the other side's going to come in and take, you know, when people figure out that they can vote themselves other people's stuff, well, it's all over. It's all over at that point. And here we are. We're trying to tip the scales back, and we're trying to reduce the size of government. We're trying to, you know, preach the word of the idea of, you know, manifest destiny, the ability to make up your own mind how you want to live your life, and being able to have a government that will respect your God-given rights to, you know, pursuit of happiness, to your own property. And that includes your bodily autonomy, that includes yourself, that includes the fruits of your labor. And these are the things that I believe in, and these are the things I hold dear to myself, and which are the foundations of our society, by the way, and which largely led to the success of our nation as we know it, and the Western world as we know it. And that is all at stake right now, because there's a lot of people that forgot where we came from, and there's a lot of people behind the scenes that really want to take the helm, and they think that they can do things better. But it's only just gonna lead to a downfall, a big old downfall. Typo in your title, Clyde. Where did I typo? Canade. I did typo that. Let me fix that real quick. Holy cow! I was rushing so hard. I was rushing really hard to get things going at the beginning here. So I'm gonna save that and just hit refresh, and it'll change to Canada instead of Canade. Rise the conservative way. So you know what? Here's the thing. So a lot of people are gonna say, you know, you got to be in one camp, you got to be in another camp. I'm in camp freedom. I'm in the camp that holds freedom dear. Where have my screens gone? I'm losing track of everything. I hold freedom dear, and here's the thing. I would love to call myself actually a liberal, in the sense of people who came up with the ideology, the whole idea of liberty. You know, men like Thomas Paine, Jefferson, John Locke. Like, these men came up with a tremendous thing, and it's been bastardized now to the point where if you call somebody a liberal, you're not calling them someone who loves liberty. You're calling them someone who detests liberty, somebody who actually wants to remove people's liberty for the sake of some all-seeing state, their new god, essentially. And yeah, I don't stand for that at all. But now we know he's drinking. Well, yeah, no, okay. So some people would call me a classical liberal. Yeah, that's right. Because I have read books from these men that I speak of, and I 100% agree with what they were seeking after. And here's the thing: it was an experiment. It's an experiment in time. This is, you know, serfdom is not new. Slavery is not new. The idea of holding people down and not allowing them to flourish is not new. What's new is this concept of liberty. It's a very new concept. It's only been around and tried for the past 300 years or so, and I want to hold on to it. It's led to the greatest success that human beings have ever seen. The greatest success, the greatest amount of liberty. It's risen people out of poverty like nothing has ever before, and this is what we should all be striving for. But instead, like I said, there's, you know, these lobby groups and a mind virus. You know, we call it the liberal mind virus or the woke mind virus. It's really the socialist mind virus, and it's this idea that you can vote yourself into prosperity, and it's you could just, you know, get blood from a stone, take whatever you want and go with that. I'm rambling, I'm ranting, I'm just giving you guys all the things, the preachiness right out of the gates in this live stream. I've been bent up. It's been all pent up. I haven't done it in over a week, and here I am back doing it again. Love doing it, by the way. I do. I absolutely do. But hey, let's get into some of the stuff that's been happening on the internet, because I love the internet. You know, at times it's really funny, and some people you don't expect might have some really funny takes. And this is one that I want to share with you guys because this one really made me laugh. And this is from Tracy Wilson. Tracy Wilson, if you don't know, she's from the CCFR. Are basically our gun lobby in Canada. And she said, this is in response to somebody on Twitter. And, you know, sometimes you pick your battles and sometimes you do it just for the lulz. Sometimes you just want to poke fun at just like people's bad behavior. And here's one of those cases. I'm guessing this Ross Permutter, I'm guessing nobody's been near your vag, he says, in years. Just because you're frustrated and rejected doesn't mean that you have to ruin every other woman's life. Look south and you'll see what your Messiah has in store for you. What is this in reply to? What does it matter? This is just the nasty behavior that you see from people that claim to be the tolerant left, right? Making insinuations on people. Anyway, so she had her reply. Picture her with her hubby there, of course, happy as always, saying, "See, this kind of filthy misogyny from the left is quite typical. I have no idea why Ross is so concerned with Canadian women's vag, but it is creepy AF. Thanks for your concern. My vag and I are just fine," she says. Unbelievable. Hitting back hard from Tracy Wilson of the CCFR. Really love to showcase this stuff when it happens. I'll get the chat in here as well. Best woman of 2023 is a dude. Yeah, isn't that funny how things work? You know, we've gone full circle. Now, just being a woman is crowded in misogyny, apparently, because women will never win at women's sports again, and they'll definitely never get Woman of the Year or anything like that. Actually, one thing I do have to give props to, because the swimsuit edition, Sports Illustrated, I know it's always supposed to be like the hottest woman or whatever, and last year they had some overweight woman. And that one got, you know, a lot of press because Jordan Peterson said a bunch about it. But this year, I believe it was Martha Stewart, and she was in her 80s. And I wanted to showcase, I'm not showcasing it, but I just wanted to mention it because for a woman in her 80s, she naturally looks good. She looks really good. She doesn't look 80, that's for sure, but she definitely looks good. And and it's not because she puffed her lips up and she got all that plastic surgery. No, actually, to the contrary. Joe Lyman, member for 11 months. Thanks so much, man. Ronald Reagan, if fascism ever comes to America, it will come in the name of liberalism. Well, there you go. There you go. I didn't know that quote, but that seems actually quite fitting. And, well, just to the T, to the reality of the situation. It's funny, a lot of people point at what was that movie, Idiocracy, where all the smart people stopped breeding and then it was just all these dummies. And it was funny because they portray them in the movie that all the dummies are on the right, and the lefties, they were the ones who stopped breeding, I guess. But it turns out, no, it's all the crazies. They're all in academia, and they're all definitely on the left. Thank goodness that the more like sensible people are still breeding. Fortunately, maybe that's our way of getting that stuff out of the gene pool. But unfortunate at the same time. That's not a movie, that's a prediction, like 1984. Well, yeah, I guess they had to write it at the time, making fun of people on the right, because Hollywood wouldn't allow it any other way, right? That's the way it goes. Clyde loves Martha. Oh, I don't think anything of Martha. But I do love women that like to age naturally and not do the collagen, puff their faces up. I think that's just, it's funny that you have all this talent from all around the world. When it comes to cosmetic surgery, they all find themselves going to Hollywood, and they're all very talented. But why is it they all make the same ugly face? Like when you get enough of that work done, you all end up looking like a puffer fish. I mean, it's just all always the same ugly face. But anyway, let's get into some of this stuff. Recently, Justin Trudeau showed up where he went to Woodstock, Ontario. Here's another instance of him not being able to go anywhere in Canada, period. He just can't go anywhere because people absolutely hate his guts.
Fuck you! Fuck you!
Oh, okay.
Fuck you!
Language.
Fuck you!
Language, guys.
Fucking pedophile!
Whoa! All right. So he's getting strong.
Fuck you! Fuck you! Fuck you!
All right. There's. Oh, that guy. That's a familiar face.
Pedophile! Fuck you!
Actually, that's a familiar face right there. Isn't that the guy who was taking pictures of the guy with the Confederate flag at the Freedom Convoy? Sure looks like him. That's Justin Trudeau's personal photographer right there. Interesting story. The Pleb, the reporter, putting this out on Twitter. This screenshot is absolute gold. That's a guy holding the F Trudeau flag, and yeah, Trudeau getting a gander at it. Yikes! Tell us how you really feel. Oh, great chant. Oh, I got COVID from buying a sex doll. Curbside pickup. Oh God! Wow, that's yeesh. Now ain't that some filthy language? Now, yeah, it is. It absolutely is. I try to keep it clean here on the show as much as I can. I know people are, they'll have the kids in the room and stuff when they put on the YouTube videos. So there are 4 Trudeaus. I'm proud of that kid. Nathaniel Racine with the 220 super chat. Is Canada becoming more socialist than fascist? Well, okay. Well, that's a great question. What is the direct difference between socialism and fascism? Well, who were the most well-known fascists out there? That would be Mussolini, the guy who coined the name, and he said himself fascism wasn't probably the best name for it. Maybe corporatism would have been a better word, because it's the perfect merger between corporation and state. Where did he get his ideas? Oh, that's right. He was a student of Marx, a communist, a socialist. Another famous one out there. Yeah, you might know his name. He had a funny mustache, funny little square mustache, and well, yeah, he was a famous socialist too. He named his party the New National Socialist Party. Wow. Hey, well, where does that come from? So, yeah, the divide between socialism and fascism is not a great one. It's funny because they've come up with this crazy horseshoe theory where they say, the socialists are on the left, and then at some point when the socialists grow a funny mustache, they do a horseshoe, and then they're on the right. And then they argue that Hitler was on the right. And I would disagree with you 100%. The clankety clank and the funny mustache clan, no, they were definitely on the left. They were full-fledged on the left. Totalitarian, state-run, control the economy, control people's lives. That's very much leftist ideology. That's not a right-leaning thing at all. It doesn't sound. How do you go from like, okay, we're getting more right, we're going from liberal, and then we're going all the way into libertarianville, and then if you want freedom just that much more, it flips around, and now you want totalitarianism, and you're on the right somehow with fascism. No, that's not how it works. It's all of the left. All of this stuff are leftist ideology, and this is a way of just tricking people into believing that some of the worst actors out there in history were of the right, but it wasn't the case. That is absolutely not the case. Yeah. I mean, I could argue this one all night, but that gets boring after some time. So let's look at some more clips here. We're going to be talking a bit about the Alberta election coming up, and I just wanted to show a couple of the clips here before we get into all that. When I bring in Derek Smith and Vesper D, we're going to be chatting a bit about the Alberta politics stuff on that side. But some endorsements have been going out towards candidate on the right in Alberta, Danielle Smith, and they're be coming from, well, notable politicians in Canada. And here's Stephen Harper giving his endorsement for Danielle Smith in this Alberta election that will be coming to a head on Monday.
Fellow Albertans, after some tough years, our province has finally recovered from the last NDP term. But Rachel Notley is promising to undo all that progress. The NDP is promising to hike taxes on job creators by 38%, a massive hike that would kill tens of thousands of jobs. Rachel Notley tried a similar tax hike the last time she was premier. Investment fled our province and mass layoffs ensued. It's no wonder Rachel Notley doesn't want to talk about her record as premier. Nor does Rachel Notley want to talk about the fact that the Trudeau Liberals are voting NDP in this election. Rachel Notley and Justin Trudeau are a combination that puts Alberta's economy at great risk. In this election, there's only one option to protect the economic livelihoods of you and your family. That's Danielle Smith and the United Conservative Party. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening. Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with them there. The taxes that they're trying to bring in, Notley's trying to bring is a classic move too. It's great. Tell everybody that you're giving them a tax cut. But in that tax cut, so we're gonna lower your taxes here, but we're gonna increase them by 30-something% over here. Oh, classic move. Great. That good old lefty tax cut. Loony tick fringe with the $6.99 super chat. Anyone else having heart flutters and nausea thinking about this Alberta election? Please vote UCP and keep Alberta commie free. And I want to get into this because we're going to talk about this with Derek and Vesper later on in the stream. But I think this election has this is going to change Canada moving forward. Either way this goes, if it goes UCP, they've actually got a strong candidate that actually cares about not only Alberta but Canada as a whole, and could get us somewhere in the struggles for freedom. It'll help encourage other governments and other provinces to follow suit and go in this direction and go against basically the conglomerate of Ottawa and Quebec. I mean, this is the way it is in Canada. It's been this way too long, and we need to have a shift in Canadian politics. And this will be that. It'll be the beginning of that if the UCP win this election. If they lose this election and the NDP get in, well, that'll be a shift in the absolute other direction. You're going to have more Justin Trudeau throughout the provinces in Canada. It's gonna push harder, and it's gonna be more difficult for people who are fighting for personal liberties and the right to manifest your own destiny. You know, the right to go out and become the person that you want to be. No, it'll be ever closer to the government dictating where you end up in the rat race of society, and that's where we're headed towards. There's another endorsement here coming from Pierre Poilievre. Here's his.
Let's cut through the noise on the choice between the NDP's Rachel Notley and Conservative Danielle Smith.
I'm sorry, I just gotta do this. He always has to have the cheesy music in his videos. Come on, man, just talk. Just talk. You don't have to have like it sounds like a Zoloft ad. It's like at the end of his speech is gonna be like, side effects may include anal leakage. You know, like, come on. Pierre, please, just come on with the music. Cut it out. It's not your brand, man. It's not your brand. Anyway, I'll let him start from the beginning. I just think that's too funny.
Let's cut through the noise.
Cut through the
choice
noise
between the NDP's Rachel Notley and Conservative Danielle Smith. Notley will work for Trudeau and Singh, the NDP Liberal coalition bosses in Ottawa. She'll support higher carbon taxes on your gas, heat, and groceries. She'll help Trudeau attack the energy sector, putting you out of a job. And speaking of jobs, she'll raise taxes on job creators, pushing you onto the unemployment lines. That'll mean a weaker economy with less money for schools and hospitals. On the other hand, Conservatives will fight the carbon tax, stand up for Alberta and its energy sector, and unleash the full potential of our Alberta economy in order to grow and prosper in the future. That means more money for schools and hospital. In other words, vote for Alberta, vote Conservative, vote early, vote now.
And vote for Canada. I mean,
let's cut through.
Let's cut through the cheese. Let's cut through that cheesy music. Let's vote Canada. And this is really where we're at with this. And we're hoping that it ends up somewhere good in this election. I saw in the chat someone saying, "What's wrong with Harper? Please explain." Did I say anything about Harper? But I do have an opinion on that, and I think this meme sums it up actually quite well. So I'll pop this meme in here, and it says, the Liberal Party, hey, they hate our country. They invite the world's economic migrants. They call you racist for opposing it, send your jobs abroad, sexualize your children, and spy on it if you point it out. And then the Conservatives, same, only slower. And for the most part, this has been the case in Canadian politics. Voting Conservative has really slowed down the creep towards totalitarianism. It's slowed down this stuff. There's a lot of great things that I would say about Harper. There's when it comes to fiscal responsibility, okay, on point. His government saved us largely from a lot of the crash that happened in 2008. We would have been hit way harder if it wasn't for the fiscal conservatism at the time. And but he also sold us up Schitt's Creek with China. I mean, did some seriously bad deals with some serious stipulation that would hold us legally binded to deals with China. So I think that I don't think it's the fault of the Conservatives so much. Maybe it is, but I think there's so much pressure from lobby groups, and Canadians have been fast asleep for way too long and not putting pressure on their representatives to vote in favor of Canadians. And I really feel that we're in a time where this could shift and this could stop being the case. And I'd hope that this doesn't remain to be true. But historically, this meme actually does feel pretty true. Yeah, the TPP that Trump vetoed. Yes, we were gonna go with the TPP. That would have been the thing. But yeah, we can all thank Donald Trump, the loudmouth from America, for getting rid of that deal, because that was really not in our best interest. And yeah, thank God that it is not the case and it's not something that's going through. But this is where people either like me more or they begin to dislike me as a personality online or as a reporter. Is I'm not partisan. Like, I will point out when the Conservatives are doing stuff bad. I think they're better than the Liberals. Obviously, my support is going in their direction. I like, what the PPC people are saying. I don't think they're going to get voted in, so I'm not really putting my focus on that. Kudos to everybody who is, and that discussion can be played out. But I'm not my team. I don't pull out the pom-poms, and I'm not gonna go rah. I'm gonna hold truth to power, and it's always gonna be that way. So either you love or hate me for it. This is the way it's going, and I hope that people just can understand that fact and come to grips with it, whether you like it or not, honestly. But this be the case. So yeah, that's my answer to what's wrong with Harper. I don't think that there's something necessarily wrong with him, but I think there are things that are wrong with his approach to our role in the rest of the world, and where our alliances and our allegiances should be. And I think that our allegiances should be with our own people, and guaranteeing that we get the best deal possible, and then we can trade freely with people across the globe. I'm not anti-global trade, but I'm definitely not for these big globalist lobby groups that want to basically usher in the next serfdom. So I'm that's kind of where I stand on this whole game here. But hey, let's move on. Let's talk about some of the other things that are basically trapping people in Canada. And this leads me to a really good documentary that just dropped a few days ago. And if you haven't had a chance to view it yet, I think you need to go see it. It is on YouTube. It's available for free. It's called Canada is Dying. I got demonetized massive today for even daring to talk about it. So I hope that this stream goes okay. There was some contention about the documentary going out on YouTube at first. It got stricken down. There was some issues. It managed to get it back up, and it's going okay now. So the video, it's a lengthy documentary. I think it's about an hour and a half. It's worth every minute, and you should definitely watch it. And also, I'm gonna go over the trailer, and I'm gonna talk about what's in it and what's being discussed in this film. But here's the trailer for one. Let's get into it.
We begin with breaking news tonight. Police say a man stabbed and assaulted at least 4 people.
Video of the incident shows the woman pushed onto the tracks.
Police say the victim was hit in the head with a large pole.
Security footage captures a drug-fueled rage in Nanaimo.
The police got him, and the cop said he'll be out just after he goes to court in the morning after breakfast.
I was just seeing familiar faces in the criminal justice system, and frustrating aspect was they were continually being released.
I don't understand how our justice system can allow him to be out walking the streets. My son should never have been murdered.
We live in an open prison yard.
Do you feel less safe than you used to?
Oh yeah, are you kidding? I sleep with something in one hand and something in the other hand, and I'm not kidding.
9 out of 10 people on the street are carrying a weapon at all times, I would say.
How much of that is directly or indirectly related to drug and drug addiction?
I would say all of it.
It's a terrifying trend taking place across the country, and it's killing an average of 17 Canadians a day.
People who have drug addictions, they have mental health issues that are unchecked. Those are the ones that are causing real concern. Those are the ones where we see these sporadic incidents of violence.
Through this exemption, we will be able to reduce the stigma.
We're having good conversations with British Columbia about something they want to do there.
But they're specifically calling for decriminalizing drugs.
Yes, they are.
This is the first day, and I'm going to buy some cocaine. I don't even know. I haven't even really looked at the menus.
What we're doing now is almost capital punishment in our streets by neglect.
Other citizens have rights as well. You have a right not to inhale secondhand crystal meth smoke.
Making sure there's a safer supply.
We had like 6 patients die from overdose. The majority of those patients were getting safe supply.
We are giving out huge amounts of a very dangerous opioid narcotic.
So they're doing the same thing today that they are currently suing these companies for doing 10 years ago.
Except the drug's more powerful.
The drug is more powerful.
It's a big deal. Yeah. It changes a person's life once, just with one pill.
You know, we got to wake up and stand together and hold the accountability where it needs to be.
This is sheer sloppiness from the government.
Canada is Dying is the name of the documentary. It's a must-see. It is absolutely a must-see. It's one of those ones where you don't just watch it, you tell people about it. And this is why I'm doing it, because it needs to be shared out there. This is something that a lot of people need to see about what's happening in Canada. There's so much hit in this film, and it's really hard to absorb it all. You could watch it a few times, and it tears you apart to see what's actually happening in Canada. And I want to show you a couple of excerpts from the film. And again, this is not for the purpose of taking the need to go see the film away from you. No, I'm encouraging everyone to watch it in its entirety. Watch it a few times. It's hard to absorb everything that takes place in it. Nathaniel Racine with a $5.50 super chat. When they closed the borders, it stopped snow from coming through the borders. Oh, I'm guessing snow, what that means. The homeless turned to ice, made it much more dangerous. Okay, so snow and ice are probably street names for... I'm not so up on the lingo. I kind of get where that's going. But yeah, so they're doing the bad stuff, and when they stop stuff from coming in, they turn to worse stuff. Yeah, well, one thing that is really illustrated in this film is the fact that the safe supply, which is of course is paid for by the government, right? So taxpayers are paying for this, and they're giving it away to homeless people for free. And what happens? Those homeless people don't prefer that. They don't want that. They get it anyway. They'll get it, but what they do is they'll sell it. As soon as they come out of the pharmacy with their free, super hard drugs, by the way, they'll come out and then they sell it. And then when they sell it, with that money, they're buying the hard stuff. They're buying the stuff that we're told is the stuff that's killing everybody. And what's happening with those safe supply drugs? Well, they're going to the kids. That's what's happening. And it's ensuring that they're sending more and more people in further and further into this spiral of addiction. And of course, there's pharmaceutical companies that are just profiting off of this massively, and all at the taxpayer's expense. And it's just a cycle. It just keeps going. Downtown Ottawa is pretty crazy. Downtown everywhere is pretty crazy these days. It's crazy. I went to Sudbury last summer. Sudbury, Ontario, up north in Ontario. And you think, when I was younger, I went there. It was safe to walk anywhere. And it's crazy there now. It's just insane. And of course, I live near Vancouver, and I drive down Hastings when I go to the local Japanese supermarket, because it's on Clark Street, just off of Hastings, and it's like 2 blocks from East Hastings, and then to get back home we have to drive down that section, and it's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. Anyway, here's an excerpt from this film here.
I guarantee you that if you go down the downtown east side right now, they're all drug addicts. The 100 East Hastings now it's a zoo. It's the largest open-air drug bazaar in the world.
Accompanied by rampant drug addiction and the mental health issues it brings, the downtown east side is a dangerous place. Marshall Smith was once a resident of the downtown east side before entering recovery and gradually rebuilding his life. Incredibly, rising to the rank of Chief of Staff to Alberta Premier Danielle Smith.
That's amazing.
At some point around 2004, sort of lost my career to drug use and wound up hanging up my suit and tie at the legislature and vanishing into the streets of Vancouver, where I lived for 4.5 years as a homeless drug addict. Obviously, those were very dark and difficult times in my life.
As part of Marshall's role as Chief of Staff to the Premier, and because of his unique background and experience, he has helped spearhead Alberta's opioid response strategy over the past 4 years.
No joke, who would know better on how to bring people to recovery than someone who spent 4.5 years in that position and found himself in recovery, and then not only that, found himself into the ranks of in government and being in charge of these policies. This is amazing. That is just an amazing story, and this is what we should be gearing towards and listening to these people, obviously. But no, that's not where they are in British Columbia, for example. No, what they say is they want to destigmatize things. They want to destigmatize this stuff. We don't are you going to destigmatize cigarettes? No, they spend so much time stigmatizing smoking to get people off of that This is the point. This is what gets people into recovery. It gets them to quit. You don't destigmatize it. That is just a recipe for disaster. Anyway, Aaron Gunn, follow him on social media, follow him on YouTube. Amazing filmmaker from Vancouver, just showing the incredible struggle that's going on out there, and what everybody else is dealing with, like all the crime that's coming out from this, the crime that's happening. By the way, this is just a little bit of another plug for Alberta and what they're doing. They're actually bringing together a decent recovery system. I know there was this fear mongering about like capturing people and against their will putting them into recovery, and people were freaking out about it. But why don't you just have a look at the facility? They go over this here.
Facilities are large, high-capacity facilities where clients can come and stay for up to a year at a time. It's individualized care with full medical services.
In the one in Red Deer, it's 75 beds, 50 on the male side, 25 on the female side. It's separated. They've got separate kitchens, and people are going to be put through the work. They're going to do the therapy in the morning and chores in the afternoon, or vice versa. They're going to have to learn how to cook, learn how to take care of themselves, learn how to take care of the facility, learn how to do some community gardening. Maybe we'll end up seeing some kind of farmer's market there, and we'll be coaching people through how to develop the life skills so that they can get their individual agency back, and then setting them on a pathway where they can pay it forward and help others. I think that is a much more inspiring vision.
Absolutely. A way of getting people to become productive members of society again. Like, you don't damn these people forever. And this is the problem. Like, the people are down and out, and that's absolutely unfortunate, but people are just damned. And people are like, well, we just need to get them a safe supply so that they can keep doing this and keep being on these drugs and keep being homeless and keep being in that position, but just make it a little bit safer for them, so it just takes them a little bit out of their misery. No, take them completely out of that misery and help them become productive members of society again. This is where we need to go with this. It's hard. It's hard because, it's like tough love. Tough love is always the best love you'll ever get, because it's the one that's going to actually pick you up and put you into a position where you can help yourself. You don't just give things away to people and expect people to be able to come out and become productive members again. It's not the way things work. It's a death sentence for so many people, this safe supply. And like I said earlier, it's this idea of getting more kids hooked on the stuff. And here's another example of exactly that.
Thanks to our own government introducing safe supply drugs like hydromorphone into street circulation, it has now never been cheaper or easier for children to get their hands on highly addictive and deadly opioids.
Are people using it, you think, even younger than grade 10?
I see 14 and 13-year-olds using hydromorphone. Like sometimes even 12-year-olds. It's like, I hate saying it out loud because it's like you almost don't want to believe it. Like, it doesn't seem real at all, but it's so real.
I am now seeing much younger people than I've ever seen in my life. I even had a 15-year-old patient who is in grade 9 tell me he started when he was in elementary school.
That's insane.
And what kind of opioids are these?
It would have been Dilaudid.
At the direction of our federal government, hydromorphone has flooded our streets and into the pockets of our children.
Did you think it was?
Oh, so yeah, pause there. It's so easy to get wrapped up into this film. It's way too easy. I've got a couple of clips that I've clipped of all of this. But yes, so this is the problem. The safe supply is not the preferred drugs of these addicts. The preferred drugs are the street drugs, and they get the safe supply. They get it free. It's paid for. Nothing's free. Nothing in the world is free. Get that out of your head. That's always you got to realize somebody's paying for it somewhere. If it's borrowed money, you're paying for it later, plus interest. If whatever, right? It's taxpayer dollars giving it to these people, and they just go out and they sell it. I don't even know, and I don't even think the film even says how much the taxpayer is paying for this. This is something that I should probably talk to Franco Terrazzano about this, if he could dig into that and find out just how much the taxpayer is paying for these safe supplies that they're going out on the street and selling for $1. They're selling them for $1 a piece, and that is so cheap. And it's flooding the street with cheap, available amounts of this stuff. And then this is when kids get their hands on it, and it's criminal. It really is criminal what's going on. And while the film also goes into the criminal aspects of this in the sense of, well, the criminality that's coming about because of having to fund these people's habits.
Problem has gotten so bad in British Columbia that the mayors of the 13 largest municipalities wrote to then Attorney General, now Premier David Eby, literally begging the government to do something. They shared data that showed just 207 of the most prolific offenders in the province were responsible for more than 11,000 negative interactions with police in the last year alone. A catalyst for surging crime and violence that has not been limited to large metropolitan cities like Vancouver, but has also affected much smaller municipalities, including Victoria, Kelowna, and the once peaceful Vancouver Island city of Nanaimo.
Recent numbers show severe crime up 44% here in Nanaimo.
I don't feel safe. It's the first time I carry a knife now.
I will pull this and it's an alarm for me to feel safe. I don't feel safe in my neighborhood.
This is Kevin Shaw, an outspoken...
That's crazy. That is just insane. People not feeling safe in their own neighborhood. This is Canada, folks. This is why people move here. They come here because they're like, oh, well, it's America light. There's a little bit more social safety net. Taxes are a little bit higher, but hey, it's safe and everybody's happy. It's, great. No, not anymore. Not because of the effects that of essentially the government and the acts that they've been putting in, like Trudeau's bail reforms that are basically just sending criminals back out on the street.
Trudeau passed legislation to keep repeat violent offenders behind bars, or by introducing Bill C-5 in 2021, has he elected to go in a decidedly different direction.
There was 14 significant criminal offenses. Kidnapping, criminal harassment, discharging a weapon in the commission of offense, an armed robbery, trafficking in drugs, such as fentanyl. There were significant mandatory minimum penalties for those offenses. That's what the government took away.
Justin Trudeau's Bill C-5, supported by the NDP, received royal assent in 2022. Meaning that for the past year, 14 serious offenses carried no minimum sentences at all. But even more controversially has been another piece of legislation, Bill C-75.
The Liberal government has tabled Bill C-75. This looks at changing the way that our courts work, with the goal of getting to more cases faster and perhaps making the process less prone to discrimination.
The federal government brought in a bill, I think it was 2019, called Bill C-75. And in C-75, quite simply, it lowered the bar when it comes to judicial interim release.
So made it easier for violent or repeat offenders to get bail. Is that
right?
Bill 75 was a bill that changed the nature of the criminal justice system. Judges were sort of dictated to consider release as the opening position for any individual, regardless of circumstance, regardless of the offense, regardless of the criminal record of the offender. It shackled the discretion of judges. It emphasized to Crown attorneys that we need to focus on releasing the accused.
I love being a Vancouver police officer.
That's insane. So their position is to and this isn't the full movie, Matthew Bubar. We're just going over some clips from the movie. Definitely recommending go watch the full movie. It's on YouTube. It's free. It's on Aaron Gunn's channel. You can check it out. I did a video about it today, this morning. The link is in the description of that if you're having a hard time finding it. So you can find it through my channel. there if you can't find a link for it. But if you just search Canada is dying on the YouTube search tab, it'll come up right away. David says, I just broke my hip good now. When it happened, they tried to manage the pain with morphine. They upped it to hydromorphine. It worked, but I was a zombie. I can't imagine kids, right? This is incredible. And what the amount that they're giving to addicts is actually a super high dose. They mention it in the film because they talk about injuries, people taking it for injuries, and those people that take it for injuries are actually at a lower dosage than what they're giving to these addicts, which is just insane. It is insane. And then there's, of course, the, you know, Trudeau, the woke culture, and the racial aspect of the criminal law, and this just gets disgusting.
Some members of the community that shouldn't have the right to be out. They're just so highly violent. Their history shows that when they're released, they are going to commit serious violence towards the community. And by ignoring it, you're putting communities in harm's way.
To illustrate just how incomprehensible the situation has become, data from British Columbia shows that since the introduction of Bill C-75, judges even granted bail 75% of the time to individuals charged with committing a violent offense who were already out on bail for another criminal charge. The kind of...
Do you catch that? The person who already committed a crime is out on bail, and then they commit a violent crime, and then they're releasing them on bail. And our court systems are so clogged up. It might be 2 years before you see a court date. So they're on the street for 2 years before they see a court date for whatever offense that they did. This is just abhorrent. You can't expect this to go any worse. But then there's the racial element here.
Of brazen insanity that solicited the rare, nonpartisan rebuke from all 13 provincial and territorial premiers in the country in the form of a signed letter demanding changes addressed to Prime Minister Trudeau. But a closer look at cop killer Randall Mackenzie's bail application shows something else equally troubling. The judge acknowledged Mackenzie's record of violent crime, but decided to release him anyways due to his Indigenous identity. Part of a growing and controversial trend in Canada's justice system to weigh ethnicity and skin color against concerns of public safety. In Vancouver, police are now forced to take into account a suspect's ethnicity when deciding whether or not to handcuff them. While across BC, the NDP government explicitly directs prosecutors to weigh against pursuing criminal charges just because an offender happens to be Indigenous, an approach retired VPD officer Curtis Robinson strongly disagrees with.
If you commit a crime, the color of your skin shouldn't matter. You just broke into the house and beat this guy half to death with a pipe. Everybody should be subject to the same rules. The color of your skin should not be a factor.
Yeah, the color of your skin should never be a factor, and that's the whole point. This is you know, we've been trying to get away from racism in our culture for some time, and we have these woke people coming in and injecting race into criminal law. So if people say we want to get rid of systemic racism, well, this is like putting it into law is the system that is systemic. That's systemic racism right there. You got to be kidding me. And this is what we're supposed to be against as a culture, as a society. We shouldn't be looking into this, but wow, things are dark. Things are dark. And this film really highlights just how dark things have gotten. So my encouragement for everybody is, hey, get your hands on this. All you got to do is go over to YouTube, Aaron Gunn, YouTube, aarongunnbc.com or at youtube.com/Aaron Gunn BC. You check out his first. It was Vancouver is Dying, and then it's Canada is Dying. Those two really good documentaries. Check it out. Please share it out to everybody out there. Give it to your friends via Facebook, Twitter, whatever social media you got. Text it to them. just make sure that eyeballs get on that film, because it's absolutely imperative that we change this trajectory, because this is just absolutely the demoralization of our society, and that's what we want to get away from. We want to reintroduce these people back into our society as contributing members of society. I'm sure they would prefer that than being homeless addicts on the street and committing crimes. And then there are some people that are just so far gone that they belong behind bars, and that's a fact. And every society's been that way since the dawn of time. There's always an element of criminality in every society, and this is how we deal with it. We don't put them out there to terrorize the public. No, we put them behind bars, put them in cages, and that's how we get into these things. But hey, we've been chatting about this stuff for an hour, and there's some other stories that I could get into tonight. But hey, I've got a couple of good friends that I wanted to bring into the stream tonight, and I wanted to get everybody on board with this whole idea. I've been getting this people saying, we want to see you chatting, maybe not just with one person, but get a panel going and have discussions on things. And I'm like, okay, well, I could definitely feed into this idea. Michael with a 550 super chat. The pensions of government police, nurses, teachers, etc. are totally wrapped up in big pharma. Were throughout the OxyContin surge and continue with fentanyl. And now with this, OxyContin was made by the same company that is making these new hydromorphine pills. And so it's fascinating. Watch the film. All the information is in there. I can't recommend it anymore. I mean, it's such a well put together piece of cinematic history here in Canada. But hey, let's get into this, because I wanted to, like I said, a lot of people saying, hey, bring in more people. Let's have panels. Let's have larger discussions where a lot of people can voice their opinions on many different things, get involved with the chat and do all that stuff. So I thought, well, who better to do that with tonight than bring in my good friends Derek Smith and Vesper D. Let's bring them into the room now. Right now. Guys, how we doing?
Oh, come on already. You spend the whole show talking about Trudeau and drugs? You leave me sitting in the background, Clyde? Let's be honest why people come to this stream tonight, man, to see me, baby.
Oh,
me.
Okay, right. No, that's fair. I guess that's the surge in the numbers.
If you came here for me.
That's the big surge in the numbers, right?
No, I got to thank you for the late introduction. I needed a few minutes with that Sports Illustrated cover before I was stream ready, so
Martha Stewart, though, right?
For the break.
Martha, she's looking.
Let me tell you, save Martha.
She's looking fantastic. No, she is doing good, and this is what I like about Martha is that she aged with grace. She.
We all know it's because she hit it with Snoop Dogg. Let's be honest.
Oh, is that a thing? I don't know. I didn't know that was a thing.
I think it is.
I didn't know that was a thing.
Cookies with her.
But hey, so there's a few things that I want to get into with you guys to bring up on this panel, and we're going to talk about Alberta politics, and then I want to talk about what I was getting into in my video this morning. And I've been covering this a bunch, and this is the stuff with Trudeau and the Chinagate, I guess you'd call it, the whole issue that we've got infiltration in our government, and it's gone so far to the point that there's secrecy in our government. We're not allowed to know what happened, but it's frustrating even the people behind that wall of secrecy so much that they're leaking stuff to the press. And it took tremendous courage for people within the apparatus, the intelligence apparatus, to come out and out these facts, because this is the right of the Canadian people to know this stuff. But in this process of trying to bury the story, Trudeau is definitely destroying the brand of the Liberal Party. And this is why especially I wanted to bring you in, Vesper, to talk about this, because you're a brand guy. You talk about, we had a whole podcast. If anyone is tuning in, go check out the podcast. We talked a lot at length about branding and what branding is all about. But I wanted to hear your 2 cents on this whole Trudeau destroying the Liberal Party brand.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me. And hey, Derek, can you guys hear me clearly?
Yeah, hearing you good.
Absolutely.
So I gave some thought, man. I took a minute off our last stream. I was very anxious and angry and upset. I said the word shit a lot in that that stream, but I've had some time to think about. I'm sure, as you can tell, there are a bunch of very low IQ executives who are very intelligently destroying their brands simultaneously across the Western Hemisphere at this point.
Yeah, Bud Light.
And
We've
so
got just Target just the other day. Like
the liberals, the Democrats, everybody's doing. It's bizarre because it's completely the opposite of what you're supposed to do. And we've had a discussion about why would somebody go out of his way to destroy his brand? Is he and his team not intelligent? Have they not planned? Did they not foresee? I refuse to believe all that because I've been in these committees, and even the dumbest one, usually in a committee like that, is often silenced because of his lack of understanding as to what the plan is and how we need to stay within the scope of the project that we're pitching. Trudeau is, you would believe that he's destroying his brand like a yuppie if he really was trying to do that, or is he, and this is what I've been considering, some brands, Clyde and Derek, they realize that it's run its course. And so they feel that they're beginning to lose equity in the market and say in the place of public opinion or something.
Yeah.
And what they need is what we call a shakeup. And so a shakeup is something that can revolutionize and redefine what that brand is to mean. But it takes extreme measures that are very risky. And it can really pay off and it will help you reinvent, but it can also completely devastate your attempt, and it's a scrap at that point.
Right. Kind of like eating a hot chip on your live stream. Is that a shakeup?
Dude, say what you will. Say what you will.
Get off thinking about my ass passing that chip.
Oh, dude, man. I don't think I'm gonna ever let that go. I saw that video.
That was funny.
I was like, wow, that is funny. Nope. Bye.
It was good. It was good. It was a nice little cleansing, I'll be honest. It was great.
Oh, wow.
So, so all I want to drop, if you don't mind me just getting back to this.
Yeah, of course.
I think if you kept it within the Canadian sphere, it makes no sense. If you keep it within the global context, it makes complete sense. Globalists have an identity. You guys have probably a ton of people have watched the Avengers. One of my favorite Avenger movies was the ones with Captain America and the Winter Soldier, and how he began to discover just how much Hydra had actually, come into S.H.I.E.L.D. and how far and wide it has already enveloped S.H.I.E.L.D. And he's like the last guy to find out, right? So Captain America doesn't understand just how much the enemy has already infiltrated his organization. I think most of Canada is seeing that there's another brand that is now coming to this liberal Canadian brand and is trying to kind of, man, it sounds like out of a movie. It's trying to like swallow this brand. And it's weird. It's not even really China. It could be, but it's this kind of globalist hybrid brand. And the Liberal Party is kowtowing to the globalists before it kowtows to the to its people, essentially. So the brand that the liberals always thought, well, it was for me, that this is my Liberal Party, they need to start realizing what's happening is that there's this hybrid version that's coming on you that's connecting with other brands with a scope and message that did not align with what you intended. And so what they've had to do is they've had to radicalize a lot of their base, not to be liberals, but to be this kind of liberal, which is more in line with these globalist agendas. And so I think we had this discussion before, Clyde, offline, and I had said to you, like, they have no problem destroying Canada because they're basically taking it over. And people tend to forget it's not liberal versus conservative anymore.
No.
You are now conservative, and every proxy government that is trying to walk in lockstep funding a move, and the liberal government is part of that monstrosity. They are very well funded. They are coordinated, as we can see in the European Union.
Mm-hmm.
Everything they do has to be in lockstep with the EU or the WHO at this point.
Yeah.
And so they have agendas, and you can get into that later, DEI, ESG, and all these things. There are definitely people that have created the conditions where the Liberal Party must kowtow. Trudeau has to be the puppet that tells everybody, I'm still a liberal, but I'm doing some funky things that you old liberals aren't used to.
Well, this is the uni-party, right? This is like, you know, there are people on all the parties that, you know, whether it's the Republicans or the Democrats in the U.S., or it's the Liberals or the Conservatives in Canada. There's the establishment, right? The ones that they want to just keep going in the direction that it's been going. It's happy, it's smooth. You're not upsetting the apple cart. Let's just go with that. And it's really following these ideologues somewhere else.
Well, so let me ask Derek and you just as questions as a marketer. How would you guys define the term, not the people, the term liberal? Pick whoever starts.
Oh, Derek, you can get into it.
Is there really a term? I mean, anytime somebody says the word liberal to me, all I can think of is the blue-haired, screaming, loud, obnoxious. I don't know how to say it.
Let's back up. Let's go to the Brian Mulroney period of what a liberal was. What did they stand for? What did liberals at that time? Well,
I mean,
okay, then I'll ask Clyde.
Okay.
Clyde, what was?
Yeah, but he's
pass.
No,
I get what you're saying. So what I would say about the old,
what was the identity of the liberals before Trudeau?
Right. So I think there's a difference between like the identity of the people in the party versus the people who vote for the party. Right. Like I think generally across Canada, people who considered themselves liberal over decades, they consider themselves people who are looking forward to a brighter and more open society. And, you know, where we all come together, we have social safety nets. We, you know, yeah, taxes are a little bit higher here, but it all pays off because we get better services than in other places where you're freer. And I think from the perspective of the politicians, I think a lot of people looked at them as like, yeah, they'll get us there. You know, they're all crooks. They'll skim a little bit off the top, but they're not trying to sell us out. They're just trying to enrich themselves, kind of thing.
So perfect. Stay there. Stay right there. Now, what would you say the conservatives look like back then? They're greedy. They're tight asses.
Liberal light.
Well, it depends on who you talk to, I'd say. Like, it depended on who you talk to. Some people would say, yeah, they're greedy. This is all views from the left, right? So they would say, because these are all, you know, tropes that don't exist. The idea that they're greedy, they're only thinking of themselves, they're only thinking of blah, blah, blah. Whereas people from the conservative side, depends on if they were someone who's like fiscally conservative versus someone who is like socially conservative. Like the social conservatives, they look at it like, you know, God and country, and we want to preserve, you know, the Christian thing that brought us to where we are, and that's held that on a high esteem. And then there's, you know, fiscal conservatives. They're like, yeah, I don't care so much about the religious aspects of it. I know where I came from. the religious stuff, but I believe in liberty but most important to me is I want to keep the fruits of my own labor, because that is a part of liberalism that we all enjoy, and that's we want to conserve that. We want to hold on to that and not let that slip, because we think that the other side is bringing us somewhere we don't want to go.
So allow me now to use the example of what we're talking about in terms of globalism, if you don't mind me staying on this whole marketing thing.
Yeah, no, I'm cool with that.
Something has coalesced with this liberal government. And I know Derek is just wanting to spit something out. And spit it out, dude. If you ever feel like you say something, just spit it out.
Say it. We have a panel for a reason.
So when you guys talk about marketing and stuff, I think that word resonates with government these days, because when you go back 100 years, 120 years, and you think about the people who were trying to solidify this country and what government stood for, I question, now, of course, none of us were alive in that time, but I would question how many of those people that worked in government then had Canada's best interests at heart versus today, where when you look at politicians, I hear the argument all the time in every election. It's what side of the devil do you want? And the problem with politics today is that it's turned into a business. It's not in the best interest of the people anymore, or what can we do for our constituents? There are good politicians out there that actually care about their constituents, that care about policies that they're putting forward. But the majority of them, it's money talks, and their pockets are always lining. I don't care if you're PP, if you're Maxime Bernier, if you're Trudeau, you're giving kickbacks to the people who fund your agendas, and they've all got different people of interest that they're paying back to. The question is what's with the best interest of the people? Pierre Poilievre's doing a barbecue in Calgary in July during Stampede season, and it's $175 a ticket to go in and just chat with them.
Oh, that sucks.
And well, yeah, $175 a seat to go have a hot dog with PP. I mean, you're funding backdoor policy again. Like, it's not. It's you don't have politicians that care about what the people think. It's all like I always compare it to NASCAR. When you look at all the cars going down the track, and they've all got their corporate logos all over their vehicles. Now it's just government. They just don't wear the brands on their outfits. But they secretly have ties to all these corporations, all these companies, these special interest groups. And what isn't transparent is when you're voting for these people, which of those companies are you supporting? We do see it in Alberta with QP behind Rachel Notley, but unfortunately with everything else.
Well, we're going to get into all of that. The politics.
Let me just
before you bring it back, I just because and I don't want people to say, "Oh, you're just standing up for PP." I don't think when he puts a price tag on meeting up for him with hot dogs, I think the point of that is just to kill the immense size of the crowd. And it is a bit of fundraising, but I don't think it's like people who get into there are like shaking hands and doing deals with the devil or anything like that. I think that happens behind other doors. And
I mean, devil's advocate.
I met Pierre Poilievre. I didn't pay a dime. I talked to him. I talked to Senator Leo Housakos. I'm just saying, forget that for a second. There's another dynamic that I'm just trying to bring up.
Mm-hmm.
The old liberals, the old conservatives, the old thinking is being usurped by ruthless actors who care nothing of what Canada was. All they think about, let me show you a line Trudeau uses often. They're in the past and we're moving forward.
Yeah.
This is a subtle, remember the priming we did in that podcast together?
Yeah.
They're antiquated. They're old thinking. They're stuck. This new way of life is with us because we're going forward. When you say forward, it means advancement, moving into newer things, bigger things, better things, supposedly. It's actually you're falling off a cliff. But that's just my opinion. Here's the thing. I wrote something on YouTube as a comment, and I told you I never write that comment. Do you mind if I just read that comment that I wrote? And
Go for it.
I think it really will phrase Derek, and I'd like to hear your thoughts, Derek and Clyde, on what I wrote. So Pierre Poilievre comes out, and they asked him, "So what you gonna do, right now that like Trudeau wants you to sign these things? What are you gonna do?" I'm gonna show you exactly where the problem is, how this fits in with the brand of the Liberals versus the brand of the Conservatives. The first thing he said was, "Well," and he froze.
Oh,
because they asked him, "What can you do now? You know, it's been done. What are you going to do?" Jagmeet is still with Trudeau. What are you going to do? Well, and he demonstrated in that moment how the Conservative Party, even though they have all these numbers, he literally exposes, and I'm saying this to every viewer you have, this is the problem. It's not just the people on the board. The board is completely screwed up. And so I'm going to read this to you. In 1 minute, Pierre demonstrates all that is wrong with our system of government and how susceptible it is to corruption and collusion. The second Pierre said, "Well, I knew our parliamentary system is based on the notion of personal moral ethics, and that leaders would be conscious of those lapses of ethical conducts, and that would mean their resignation. Parliament does not have laws to remove a leader who is ethically bankrupt if he will not resign. Either a majority of parties join, or the Governor General or the King of England can step in and remove said government. Those are the only options Canadians have. Not the people. Those institutions have to speak up. What happens, though, when the government and the Governor General, the coalition, and a few other parties are all in on the corruption and are all selfish, looking out for their own interests? This is precisely what's happening right now in Canada.
Yeah.
It's no longer a brand. This is now I wouldn't even call it a uni-party. If I could make a logo as a designer for this entity,
it's a business.
this hybrid, right? This hybrid, I would call it the coalition. Like, it would be a new party and a business called the Coalition. And that would be its brand, because that's really what it is. A bunch of you getting together, using each other's leverages, and because we can't outvote you, because we can't impeach you, you're using all these loopholes to stick together. I can't go to the Governor General because, to be honest with you, after what I've been seeing from her, Derek, I feel like she might as well be in his pocket. I hope I'm wrong.
So,
you know what I mean?
Let me give you a little bit of insight into PP, because since last summer, since Clyde and his wonderful community propped up unacceptable fringe as a business, I'd been asked to, if you remember PP's leadership campaign run last summer, I was asked to join that. I was asked to produce a video using pages from How the Prime Minister Stole Freedom as a joke video, similar to Pierre's sit down when he was eating breakfast and talking to Trudeau about all the costs that have gone up and things like that. He wanted to do a comical video using my book as a prop. And I'd spoken back and forth with his people. They said he was a huge fan of what I was doing. I was invited out to Ottawa in October to meet with him, and said, great, I'd love to meet with him. I think I still believe he's the best candidate to run the country if we had an election tomorrow. But as I met with him, as I walked in, now I brought him a signed copy of the book. Again, we'd spoken back and forth, and I walk into his into Parliament to meet with him, and his assistant comes out and says, he'll take a photo with you, but you're not allowed to hold up the book. You're not allowed to have anything to do with the book. We can't mention the book. We can't talk about it. Nothing like that. And the problem is that since you've seen what the tactics are back and forth with the Liberals, as soon as like the Jeremy McKenzie photo came out, then all these other things, they use any little thing they can do to attack each other. And what you're seeing with Pierre when it comes to what are you going to do is, ever since seizing that leadership role, he's skating so carefully on the ice to make sure he says all the things that people want to hear, and he says, or he does all the things that people agree with, because he doesn't want to step out of line. He's not doing what he did prior to that leadership win, which is speaking his truth and getting his word out. And I think that's his biggest downfall, because people like the genuinity. People like seeing general reactions to things and what everyone's wanting to say, but nobody else has the balls to say it.
Before you get into that, I was gonna say that up until a couple of weeks ago, I probably would have agreed with that sentiment 100%. But in recent weeks, or in the past few weeks or so, because of how aggressive Pierre has been on this situation with the Chinese collusion, Chinese interference story, I would say that Pierre, as soon as he won his candidacy, was boom hard on that one, and then he stepped back, and then it's like, well, what happened? What happened to the strong leader guy? And then as soon as he had the position to pounce, he's done so. And this is where I'm like, okay. And I was talking about this with Marty up north the other day as well, because it seems like he is hitting hard, but he's being very selective when he does it, instead of hitting all the time.
This is what I wanted to bring up, and we need to clear something up. And this is not an affront to Derek or you, Clyde. Okay.
Yeah.
Remember, when people are marketing, because he has people helping him with his PR, marketing, messaging, blah blah blah, writing. We are not. The goal is prime ministership, but there's other goals too that we need to achieve. Yeah. So if I'm doing a project for, let's say, somebody, of course, if he's asking for a logo, I have to consider multiple other things he's going to have to use this logo after it's landed. Mm-hmm. And I have to kind of set it up so that it's ready to achieve all these other things, even though we may not have started. So I have a client. I did him a brand proposal in New York. He loved it. But then when I went to New York, he was like, dude, this won't fit on like a high rise. This concept is not going to look good on a high rise. This was early on in like my career. You didn't think that I might blow this up real big. So I think Pierre is not trying to alienate the left. See, now I'm speaking personally. So this might be part designer, Derek, part personal. I think the people on the right and in the center, basically anybody that's been shafted by this guy, is so upset that we just want the one guy that we believe is supposed to stand up to him to just call him out constantly on his bullshit and not budge on anything. That's really more of the sentiment of everybody that's been shafted by this prime minister. Mm-hmm. But a general doesn't think this way. A general has to say, well, we're not going to beat them if I don't get some liberals here with me. And some of these liberals, they may not like the truth. So I have to put a little bit of candy on top of that medicine, like a Tylenol, a sweet Tylenol, so that I'm not so abrasive to them. I think the people that are very linear and they're angry that he's now he looks like he's floundering. I think he's a little bit more methodical in his approach and actually smarter for being this way, because I win all of the right, and we win the election, but now I have this entire subset of people that are against me.
Right. There's a dance that they do, and that's part of politics. And I don't know if civic politics work the same as provincial or federal, but what I can tell you is, since even getting in touch with counselors in my mayoral run in Calgary, I've come out from the beginning saying, I'm not these guys, and that's why I'm running. That's the whole point of why I'm running. I'm not the guy who's been around for 20 years, who's got his pockets lined from corporations and special interest and everything else.
Favors.
I'm the guy coming in who's got nothing to lose, who's saying that I'm just going to call the bullshit like I see it, and people are either going to get on board or I'll lose. One of the two. Now, that's already upset some of the counselors that have come in and asked me to run, because they say, well, there's a way we do things, and there's a way that we do, like, we can get somebody in charge of your tweets and somebody in charge of your social media. I said, I don't want anybody touching my stuff. I don't want anybody, because the whole reason people are supporting me is because they like what they see from me, not from some guy who's paid to sound like me.
Derek, let me give you one thing, and this is just an example from my job. I was literally charging like 85% less than the other competitor, because this client, he basically reached out to 3 studios, but I needed the money at that time. I was broke. I needed the money, and I could do the quality that I did do now. Dude, I walked in. I'm like, hey, this is what you want? 2 days, I'm done. And it's going to cost you $2,500. They would have paid 20 grand with this other studio.
Right.
And they know my work. They could see my portfolio. They saw everything I do. There's something else that they didn't want in me. And it wasn't just that I was brash and sincere and authentic. I think some people just can't handle that level of authenticity. What they want is this kind of veil of like this illusions. Sweet talk me.
But maybe that's part of the problem.
We know that. But this is a human problem. This isn't a politics problem. This is a human problem. I could go up to my wife and say, hey, honey, did you do the dishes? I'm not going to get a good answer from a woman like that. I'm not like that. I say, how are you, my love? How are things? I wish I could just get to the point. I mean, you know me by now, Clyde. I get straight to the point. But there's a dance, right, that's done with the wife because you love her, you honor her. And she has to dance with you too because you're a knucklehead most of the time. So the point that I'm trying to make is when you enter these spheres, these guys have already been dancing. And if you're disrupting the whatever dance they're doing because I'm doing this, I'm not going to mess around, we're going to clean this up, we're going to whatever. There's a lot of people slumbering and they're not ready to change all this. They may be profiting from it. They may have a security. It may be laziness. Like they don't want to do anything. They just want to, go to dinners and, do banquets and do all this stuff. And here you are, a sincere contender to fix the problems of this area. And it's a threat to them. Wait, You mean I have to now work 4 days a week instead of 2? Like, you understand what I'm saying?
I got to come into the office. What?
I get what you're saying. And just a little bit of a transition to get to what I'm getting at. You see that already in Alberta with Danielle Smith because she hasn't been the status quo. She's not a federalist like Jason Kenney. And she's shown that since she took her leadership role, that she's more libertarian in a sense, and she's willing to do the dance, but only so far, right? She holds her principles at the same time as doing what everybody sees as the norm. And that's one thing I find respectable about Danielle Smith. But at the same time, we'll see on Monday what that's going to cost her, whether that's going to win her the election. Or like you said, people want the other part of reality where they want the facade.
So I don't jump in here for a sec and just say that, when you end up in a position, like say you win, you're now the premier of a province, you're the prime minister of a country. You're not a prime minister of this group to rule over all and enforce and pressure and push your ideology onto the others. I mean, some people do that. I mean, we saw that with Justin Trudeau, and this is why so many people are upset and think he has to go, or insist that he has to go. As a conservative leader or as somebody else, I think I think this has a lot to do with some of the branding. So we see that this is how the Liberals have absolutely gone their way with this. But the Conservatives, I think, have to show that once they get into a position of power, they're not going to just wield it on everybody. This is what's been foisted on them, and this is what's kind of the brand that's been put on them from the left. Like once they get in, they're going to come in and they're going to take away all the things that we promised you, and they're going to do all these things. And there's nuance to these stories, but people won't hear it. They won't listen to the nuance. They won't listen to the policy.
Clyde, if you touched on something important. The idea that the Conservative Party feels too stolid, too stuck, too authoritarian, and that they're very serious. Their demeanor, the way they speak, the way that they stand. First of all, my criticism of the Conservative, and I'm a conservative, I'm telling this to everyone, I'm a conservative, but even I can see that there's a massive fracture and a misalignment on brand across all the provinces from the Conservative side. Mm-hmm. I'll tell you one thing. Trudeau, first day he became PM, or he was talking about being PM, he said, if you are pro-life, I'm literally checking everyone that's coming. And if you're pro-life, you're not part of the party. Like, do you understand how unified you have to be when your prime minister says, if you are pro-life, you can't be in our party?
Yeah.
There's not one person in the entire Liberal Party that is pro-life, which is fine. That's their view. But I'm showing you how he consolidated everybody. And there's no, I have my opinion, I have my views. No. You're going to align to what I say. And if you're not aligning with what I want, then you're not in. Then you have Scott Moe, very strong character. You have Danielle Smith in her own right, a very strong contender. And then you have Pierre Poilievre. How are these guys all working together to coalesce a brand and a message across the entire country? I'll leave it to Derek. Maybe you could answer. How are they all tethered? Because the Liberals are very well, they're destroying their brand, but they're destroying it well. Because they have a brand.
It's like herding cats. This is the hard part. This is like the whole concept of liberty is like, everybody who wants to be on the side of liberty, what are they fighting for? They're fighting for everybody to have the right to do and think their own way. And that is such a hard thing to pin down to an ideology.
Do you believe Danielle, and you know better than me, Derek, is Danielle 100% behind Pierre Poilievre?
I've had a couple of talks with Danielle Smith, and I can honestly say what she's behind is the best interests of the people she's working for. Now, but she has now when let me kind of reiterate how I can make that a little more.
Yeah, because you sound like a politician the way you said that.
She's I like it. In our discussions, I asked her the same thing. Look, we've both shared in conversations with Pierre, and we talked a little bit about it. And I told her that between meeting with Pierre and when I sat with Melissa Lantsman, I felt two different vibes. Melissa Lantsman was very forward. It was like sitting with an old friend, and she was straightforward with me about politics. She's even told me that there's times she doesn't agree with her party, but they have to find a way to work together, and that if Pierre gets in, there's no magic switch that gets flicked. It takes time to fix and amend some of the problems and concerns that people in Canada have.
That's what people don't want.
She was a realist.
People don't want that.
But she was being a realist, and that's what I liked about it. With Danielle Smith, the question came up, do you get the same vibe that Pierre is going to do well for Canada? And she says, I think he'll do better than what we have. But she says the same thing.
Yeah.
Okay, but can I say something?
My job is to, well, hang on. She says, my job is to focus on Albertans. And if something is going on at the federal level that we don't agree with, then my job is to either stand up to it or find a workaround. So she said, when it comes to, do I think he can do the job? She says, I'm not a fortune teller, but I'll work with people the best way we can, and then figure out what's best for the people we cover.
Clyde, let's just assume for some miracle that I'm hired as the senior advisor of the brand for the Conservative Party. You know what I would say? All of you are conservatives, but all of you are fractured.
Yeah.
All of you are fractured.
Yeah.
You cannot come under one unifying symbol. All Trudeau had to say, let me show you. Trudeau just said, if you are anti-abortion, get the hell out. That's just one thing that he unified every Liberal under. And he might have even done it with some NDPs for all we know. But the point that I'm trying to make is the Conservatives, of course, they're going to differ from province to province. But what's the brand sitting on? What's it saying? The brand right now is saying, we're not that guy. That's not a brand.
That's not a brand, no.
That's not a brand. A brand is, this is who I am. And this is what this monkeypox is down here. And I can do this for you, and this for you, and this for you. And it sounds like promises. And then if he really wanted to double down, he'd say the entire party stands behind this. But the problem is everybody's fighting their little proxy wars in every province. And Pierre Poilievre is the leader in Parliament. But let's be honest. Do you believe that the Conservatives, I mean, I see them more and more they are, but do you feel like they're representing a message and a brand? No. Most of the last year to 2 years, it's been finger pointing, They're really good at calling out what's not good. So, okay, you guys are basically
Well, and they feed
all
right into when the liberals do it, because they're like, hey, look, here's a conservative hanging out with someone we think is unsavory. And they're like, oh, I'm going to deflect and I'm going to say that I disavow and all this stuff. I was really disappointed in Poilievre's camp to go after people who went and spoke to...
well, they're being played. Listen, they're being played, dude. All it is they're being played. And the conservatives are so busy trying to fend off being played. They're reactionary and they're not actionary.
Yeah, and I agree with you 100%. This whole idea of like somebody comes out and calls you a racist. The first thing you do is you say, no, you're a racist. you don't defend yourself because you're defending
or just say sure and then move on. Like the idea is you can't
dismiss it. You dismiss what they have to say. And this is if you can take anything from the world of Donald Trump, it's the dismissal. Laugh at it, and then move on and say something about what everybody. Keep the message on your point. Don't take their messaging and be a spokesperson for it. You gotta be a spokesperson for your own messaging.
I don't know if you guys know the answer to this, and I'll stop so you guys can talk about other stuff. But my wife is a wonderful Greek woman.
You have to go off camera for that.
Yeah. I'll back up.
Don't tell anybody my wife's Greek. She's not.
So I love her. Listen,
you ought to.
I
hope so.
I have this conversation with her and I say, what happened to your people? You guys were the masters of civilization. You guys invented philosophy, breakthroughs in mathematics. You were sitting at the top of the world, and now you guys sell like chicken pita and like gyros and diners. And you know what she said to me? Like, it is the most based thing anyone has ever said to me. She's like, when you've been to the top of the world, you don't need to see it again.
Oh, that's so funny. Now, I'd hate to, because there's going to be somebody who's going to say this. Well, the demographics have completely changed from Greece.
She's saying to me that we haven't lost it. We just don't need to do it because we've achieved it already. We've achieved it already. So when I say that to her, okay, so now what's happening to this party? Because if the Greek brand was this perfection and everything, why is it devolved or seemingly devolved? Well, when you do what Trudeau did, and let me make no mistake, you will hear the only compliment, Derek, I will ever give Justin Trudeau. Justin Trudeau has packaged the prime minister's role and the party and coalesced his party better than any prime minister before him.
Oh, yes, very much so.
Period. Like,
you see how much he can skate on his scandals. That's
dude,
the tell right there.
All that is the marketing working for him. And I'm not saying he's so smart he did this. I'm saying the team that he surrounded himself with, the plan that he surrounded, the unification of the party behind this one Vidal Sassoon wearing prime minister is like the best thing. The problem is PP has a very strong Mo. He has a Doug Ford. He has a Daniel Smith. And all of them are fighting their dragons. But what's the message? Easy. We're the dragon fighters. We just fight dragons all the time. We're so busy fighting dragons, we will not save any princess. That's what I'm getting from the conservatives. And that's all I have to say about that.
This reminds me of Norman Spector. He put out a tweet today, I think it was. I retweeted it. And he says, a public inquiry, ? The Globe puts its finger on the coalition of the killing. All the opposition leaders continue to say that they remain convinced that such an inquiry is needed, a reminder of the overwhelming vote by Parliament. Indeed, Mr. Singh repeated his support for an inquiry in the letter he sent Thursday to the Prime Minister accepting the offer to view Mr. Johnston's full report. As I have stated publicly on my occasions, I believe that the only way to a full accounting and to restore the trust to Canadians is to launch a full public inquiry, he wrote. Mr. Singh can show the sincerity of his belief by ratcheting up the pressure on the Liberals by scrapping his parliamentary alliance. Anything less than that would demonstrate that the NDP is not serious about ensuring public scrutiny, is trained on Beijing's meddling and Ottawa's inaction. Anything less would show that the NDP thinks that writing a few more dollars out of the government is more important than safeguarding Canada's electoral system from China's malign influence.
So I want to touch on one thing that became very prevalent to me last weekend when I had a sit down with Dr. Jordan Peterson.
Oh, I thought you were going to talk about the
politics.
chip again. It's like, yeah, we got it. It was hot.
Get that chip out of here. I don't know. I don't want to talk about my pride anymore. Listen, I sat down with Dr. Peterson because we talked about an endorsement and we talked about politics and we talked about civic election and provincial elections. And he talked during his show about Danielle Smith and that he thinks she's probably the most competent politician he's ever had the pleasure of meeting with and talking about. And mentioned about how important this election is, and you've mentioned it on your channel too, Clyde. Not just for Alberta, but Canada.
All of Canada.
And it sets a precedent.
It's going to shift politics.
It sets a precedent
for sure.
And one thing, so I went through recently of Dr. Peterson's Rules to Life, and the book is absolutely fascinating. I can honestly say it's helped me with my anxiety, it's helped me with depression, and it's helped me get a clear scope on the way things work in the world. And one thing he mentioned during our meeting that I think was very relevant is that he says people are so concerned about the federal level. And the reality is the federal level, while it's crucial to Canada, and while they pass the major bills, like when you talk about C11, when you talk about guns, when you talk about everything else, they're in charge of those things and your tax rates and things like that. He says, but the majority of the decisions that are made in politics that will affect your life more are at the municipal level and the provincial level. And if you're concerned with the federal level, it starts at the bottom. You've got to start with school boards. You've got to start with municipality. You've got to start with, he says, homeowners associations. You move your way up the ladder until you get to the provincial level and start making some real change there. He says the problem is everybody wants the change to come from a federal level, and then it's sunshine and rainbows. And he says people need to start putting their feet forward and saying, I'm going to get involved if I've got an opinion, and I'm going to join a committee, or I'm going to join a neighborhood group, or the again, run for school board trustee, or I'm going to run for counselor of my ward in my city. I've said before, I'm nothing special, and there's nothing that puts me on a pedestal to run for mayor of this city. I'm simply fed up and saying, he's right. Let's make a change. I would encourage anyone that's sitting here watching this stream, if you have a view and think that there needs to be change, get involved. The way he spoke about it is so concise and so honest that you start thinking about the things in my life that are bothering me. If I could change them, I want a better quality of living in my city. I want my property taxes to go lower. I want my utility bills to come down. I want, less taxation on goods and more availability of goods at the same time, and lower pricing of goods. Well, that doesn't necessarily rely on the feds. So maybe I'll put some pressure on groups in my local constituency. Bother your MLA. Go to their office, call them, send them emails.
Can I chime in on that?
Sure.
I would agree if we weren't living under Hydra. Okay? Okay. You have to understand the amount of money that has been funneled from the top to these places, that you will often go in there and sometimes you'll get the result you want because there are sincere people on those boards. What's happening is that a lot of people are being bribed and paid off. And the problem is you'll walk in there and while you are completely sincere, I mean, remember that thing with the Rebel News guy had the Z cups? Okay. So Rebel News that whoever that person was that had the Z cups and was going
David
to the
Menzies.
school. Yeah. So, so let me ask you a question, a legit question, because you would say that that's like first level, right? The thing Jordan Peterson's talking about.
Yeah.
How is it that he walks in first day to interview and ask the board, what the hell is this? And the people in the crowd are booing Menzies. Like, it's shocking. What is it that's happened that is causing people to go against what they actually believe?
The internet. It's the
One,
internet.
Well, that's
social
one,
media.
yeah.
Look,
and
the
just
biggest
like
problem.
echo chambers. They have their own little echo chambers.
Right. Fear. How about fear?
Yeah.
How about fear? How about
Of course. Well, look at COVID.
fear?
Look at people shaming each other for vaccines during the lockdown.
Well, just fear getting kicked off your board or whatever it is. Like so
let's talk about the priming.
status
Hold
quo.
on, stay on the prime, because this is me leading you to the priming effect.
Mhm.
Everything that was done in COVID, Clyde, is now like weaponized. It has been made okay to shame people publicly on under this banner of whatever. So if you try to go change your community, I'm not saying it's impossible, just know there's a lot of money flowing from the top down to incentivize them to go the opposite of what is common sense.
Well, so I agree with you both on this. Let's just put it this way. If you want to understand government corruption, go join your local homeowners co-op or whatever. Like, actually join these organizations, go to your AGM, go to these meetings, and you'll see just how petty the people who are actually on these things are. And not only how petty they are, how quick they are to usurp the powers, the little powers that they have, and use them against people they dislike in their community, and be petty and awful with each other, and then take the powers as well to embezzle by hiring their friends and preferred people and getting kickbacks for, you know, hiring this company over that company to do the work. And basically, like, it's unbelievable the levels of corruption that you'll see at these tiny levels of authority in our society. To think that it doesn't happen tenfold at the top is just moronic, right?
Derek, do you remember that teacher that was like the head of this Catholic school board that was calling like the white male is the most Christian male is the most dangerous? How the heck did you become the head
of the Catholic
school?
Yeah, holy cow!
Because again, it's they roll. It's the same thing we were talking about with Pierre. They do the dance, they say what people want them to say, and they cross all the check marks on the list.
You're saying they infiltrate,
and
Hydra.
it's look, the reason why. And again,
Hydra.
No, but I mentioned this when I said that the counselors that asked me to run for mayor were upset. They're all worried about, like, when I talk to a counselor and they say, well, we don't want you doing these things or talking this way. Why don't you run it by the books like we do? I start saying, look, I know what these guys are worried about their paycheck. They're worried about, how do I keep my roof over my head? And if I say something that anybody disagrees with, I'm canceled. I'll be ran through and walked on the mud on the internet. My career is over because I've left my other job to be a counselor. Stop thinking like that. And that's part of the reason.
Why do you think I pull wrenches?
Again, that's why I'm going into this, because
I still pull wrenches.
I've got nothing to lose.
Well, I could have this taken away from me tomorrow. I could have no YouTube channel. It could all go away. But
you'll figure it out. Like it's one of these things that
I gotta encourage Derek and discourage him at the same time. Okay? Your name is not RFK Kennedy.
No.
And even he is not allowed to be on the Democratic ballot. He's the only one that's speaking the truth. He doesn't care what anyone is saying.
And that's what we need more of.
I know, but the party has enough leverage to basically not silence him, period, but to not have him be part. He'd have to literally create his own party at this point, because they're not going to let him. Dude, he's at 26%. I don't know if you saw that. This guy's going up.
That's a moment. Yeah. It's a moment in history, though. Watch this, because I actually love this, because it took the Republicans to go through this with Ron Paul to watch how corrupt the system was, and they just squashed him. He was the best candidate. Come on, and people supported him, and the media industrial complex got together with the RNC, the GOP, the good old party, right? They got together and they squashed the guy. And then when Donald Trump tried to do the same thing and tried to run as a populist character, they tried to pull it on him too. But he was way more savvy than Ron Paul. But here's my answer, and because we're on the same thread right now, to all the people that say, you know, what about Maxime Bernier and what he's doing. I think fracturing is the opposite of what we need to do. I get why he doesn't agree with the conservatives and he's got a gripe with them. But the thing is, we don't need to just be okay with the way things are working and work within that framework. We need to go in and disrupt it. And that's what's happening in the States, and they've proven that they can do that. If RFK ends up getting booted, it's going to wake up a lot of Democratic voters that actually believe in the fundamentals of liberty and what the Democrats originally stood for.
That's what I'm saying to Derek. I think that's what's the dynamics of what you're doing for not changing who you are and standing on your principles is going to be met with a lot of adversity from lemmings that have been vindicated to constantly worry about their feelings. And, we don't want to offend anyone. And we do listen.
But before we get too far, because I wanted to say the Ron Paul thing, the idea of breaking off and having another party, the PPC, or breaking off and doing this other stuff is the same as Ron Paul when he broke off from the Conservatives, or he broke off from the RNC, and he went and he rode with the Libertarians, and he was he was a Libertarian candidate for a bunch of years, and it got him nowhere. And that was the reality of the situation. It got him nowhere.
But see, you're drawing such a good example in terms of marketing and selling yourself. That yes, ideally, I should be completely free to speak, but it's unfortunate that this system deals with a lot of egos. And because there's a lot of egos, I have to cater to these egos until I get to the place that I want to, like Trudeau, then I can destroy the country.
Right.
Yeah.
So like he didn't set out, hey, vote for me so I can put you in the highest deficit Canada has ever been in the G7. Hey, you know what? I don't care if you're a Christian. I'm going to put rainbows down your throat until you start pooping unicorns. Like he didn't do any of this, right? His whole thing was, I'm the everybody guy. I'm the friendly guy. That's the old guy. I'm the new guy. Like literally I'm pitching a movie, right? There's even a movie called New Guy. So and then the hair.
Every once in a while he'd come out and be honest though, and he would say, Canada doesn't fundamentally have an identity. We've moved past that. We're going to be the new, the post-nation state.
Do you remember that vaccination video when he's like, Canada will not do mandatory vaccination. They're like, well, why?
I remember
I'll tell you what, we don't. Like there was authentic moments, and you got to consider that, Derek. That if you're not able to be dishonest, politics might not be the best fit, because politics requires you to not lie, but
but what I'm talking about is running. I'm talking about the running aspect. It's that I'm not going to do.
Talk about lying later. I got to get in office first.
I'm saying that I'm willing to do a dance, but I'm not doing the dance they want me to. Here's the difference. When I was questioned by Get Woke Up when they said, "How come you're running for mayor?" I said, "Because everybody else sucks, and I feel like I have to." Because there's no one good to choose from. And when it comes to, like, I met with Rob Anders of the Conservative, former MP from the Conservative Party. One of the founders, I believe, of the new Conservative Party.
Okay. And
we had a long talk about what I'm running on. And he said, a lot of people are going to hate your guts. And I said, good. And he says, but the thing is if you stay on the track of what you're doing, that's the brand. Whether you lose or get the job, he says you're going to win, because you're going to start pushing people to get loud and to start speaking. He says you think about the convoy and you think about a bunch of people getting in their trucks that got the whole country standing up, cheering, supporting everything that was going on with these lockdowns, these measures, everything else. He says you look at Calgary with this woke mayor who's shutting down Canada Day fireworks. Now they've reinstated them on pressure, but she shut down fireworks. She allows men to change in women's change rooms. She puts everybody at risk, all because of woke ideologies. So he says, if you make enough noise and you're unforgiving towards these policies and that you're running on win or lose, I'm just coming balls to the wall to point out the nonsense that's going on in this town. He says, you'll win, even if you don't get the job. And he's got a point. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm going to win. I don't get into anything unless I'm going to win, and I'm going to win. I'm going to take that seat. And I'm going to fill my office with arcades, and I'm going to run this city like nobody else ever has. However, I'm getting into it because there's no one else worth voting for. And I'm not afraid to call that out. I'm not afraid to do my version of the dance. When you look at music and its evolution, people, were listening to rock music in the 80s, and then rap came in and redefined music in the 90s, and they were still doing the same dance, but just in a different way. And that's what I'm going to do. Is say
look,
the current way things are isn't working.
You could
someone's got to change it.
You could take advice from a brand specialist. Any guy that comes out and says, we have the best razors, F all of them, or we have the best, whatever, try to run from that kind of thing. Just give what makes you amazing. And I think people...
I'm not them.
No, well, that's good. Listen, remember that the for most people, and I'm serious now, from a packaging perspective, people love features. Human beings love to see multiple features in things built in. So my advice to you is demonstrate all the best features. And you know what they'll do? They'll say, well, we don't have that. We don't have that. Or well, why didn't we have that? It's so funny because as you begin to point out all the great features, humans typically say, well, I don't have that. So you don't have to tell them what they don't have. Just tell them what you have. And they're going to say, well, gee, I don't have that. I need to have that. I should have that. So it's just weird. It's an optical illusion that we foist on people as we manipulate them, us marketers, that we tell them all the great things we have. And some people are so cheesy at it, right? Like they say, does BMW have that? Like that's super cheesy. All they had to do is
Lexus, though. That was not Lexus. Sorry, Hyundai. Hyundai ran on that forever.
Yes. You remember that?
I do remember those ads.
What they do is they'll say, sure, we're not the best looking thing, but do they have this? Do they have this? You don't have to do that. Just focus on what the great things you're going to bring. And people will automatically say, damn, that's a lot better than what we have because we don't have much. So listen, and this is precisely what I think's been happening, Clyde and Derek. The liberals have run out of charm. So the brand is good, but the charm is gone. And they're now becoming uncharming.
They're yesterday's news.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And this is where I say that they're ruining their brand. Because you told me before, I can't remember if it was in our podcast or if it was private, we were chatting. And you told me about a company who came to you, and they had like just a really crappy product. And and they had all this beautiful branding, and they asked for your advice, and you said, don't use it. Because
you want me to tell you?
Yeah, tell everybody the story because it just makes so much sense.
He came up to me and he knew me through another person, and he's like, I want to create this brand logo concept, and I was like, oh, okay. And he's like, I'm willing to put like $35,000 on the table to just start. I'm like, for me at that time, I was like, sure, I take you seriously. Like down payment of $35K. So I'm like, this is going to be awesome because it's in Santa Monica and I get to travel and I get to do all this stuff. In the back of my head, he's like, let me see what it is. He takes it out. I look at it. Like I was like let down big time, bro. Like it was so bad, his idea. Not because I don't want to get into the detail, but it was very passé and not well thought out. And here's the thing. And I want everyone that doesn't know anything about branding to really listen to me here. You can make a piece of shit look like it belongs in a museum design-wise today. The tools we have, the animation, the 3D, the every availability to us, even the words, like we're smart with how we pick the words and how the music plays with the words. And I told him, this is exactly what's going to happen. You're going to give me $35K. I'm going to wrap this piece of shit up in something that's really beautiful. And for the first few months when it's on the shelves, everybody's going to say, oh, look at that beautiful thing. Look at that beautiful thing. I want that beautiful thing. And then everyone's going to take that beautiful thing. They're going to go home. They're going to open it. And they're going to say, wow, what a letdown. And then what do you think is going to happen? I told them, you're asking me to create something ultra attractive. And when you open it, you find out that you were basically conned. You were fooled. And now what's right. And now what's going to happen is this is where people that are not really intelligent, or some people know, by the way, Clyde, and they don't care. They made their quick buck. But let's talk about someone that's legitimately sincere. He believes his product is good, but he's about to pay for it because your logo is great. Human is gonna create an association in his head. Good looking thing, but is shit, a shitty good looking thing. And because that happens, every time they see anything remotely with your beautiful brand on it, you've already lost them. You could literally give them away for free. And the people will say, voila. Derek, can someone get Derek a crown for the best answer? Do you understand?
Lots of crowns.
Dude,
Are you kidding?
Dude, Derek nailed it on the proverbial head. We're giving them for free. You could take that free, turn it around sideways, and you know the rest. Okay, like we don't need it.
Yeah.
You've literally created something that was beautiful and filled it with a message that just turned everyone off. And I don't know if you want to talk a little bit more about what's been happening in Target, but they've been moving all their stuff back now.
Yeah,
and
well,
soon it's going to be out of.
Sure, but I was just using that as an illustration for why Trudeau is that crappy product, and everybody sees that now. And now, you know, it's wrapped in the liberal name. And there was like even Andrew Scheer recently came out and he was talking about how, I think it was in Saskatchewan, the Liberals changed their name. The provincial party changed. They didn't even have another name. They got rid of the name.
Because they know. The problem is
writing's on the wall.
Dude, let me tell you from a business perspective what happened, guys. Okay, are you ready? They went too far into Trudeau. Take that however way it sounds. They went too far into Trudeau that he's the Messiah, the next coming of Jesus, and he has let them down significantly. Because now, how am I going to rip this guy from this brand? Everyone now that looks at this big L is going to think loser, not liberal.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's the problem now. You heavily invested with this person as your spokesperson. Good luck. Once you guys go, no one will ever look at the Liberal Party again. That you have any legitimacy. You are literally, in every sense of the word, a dying brand now. You're no longer needed. And here's the thing, right? An incredible politician could be coming up in the ranks of the Liberals. Okay. And I'm not knocking them. There were some great politicians that came out of the Liberals. But he's going to have to pay for what Trudeau did to the brand.
Yeah.
So you could paint that pony. You can clean that pony. You could brush that pony. It's still a turd pony. It can't do anything for you. You've decimated it. And it's funny because right now, all I'm thinking about is that their plan? Was that their plan all along? That we don't need a Liberal Party. What we need is a ton of money and deals.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to say this. It's going to sound ultra conspiratorial. Nobody destroys their brand this willingly if they don't have something to get out of it.
Yeah.
You're talking about a guy with 10, 20 years of experience in this. Nobody does this if you're not getting something out of it.
Yeah. I've explained this as well about Jagmeet Singh, Jimmy McJuggernuggets, as we call him on the channel. He he's gone ahead with this coalition against the will of his constituency, against the will of his entire party, the entire platform, what the party stands for, against the old NDP. And I keep reiterating to people why people vote for the NDP. There's generally two types of NDP voters. There's the ones that believe in the platform and that's their thing, right? They like the ideas of socialism and unionized
communism,
organized
communism,
organized labor, or whatever. And then you have disaffected liberals, people who hate the Liberal Party but don't want the Liberal Party in power and won't ever vote for the Conservative because the counter branding has worked so well on them that they'll never vote Conservative. So both of those target demographics have been abandoned by Jagmeet Singh and his what he's done and what he's continuing to do, even in this situation now that I was just talking about. Norman Spector having said today, calling them the coalition of the killing, and what they're doing is they're killing their parties, they're destroying them, and they're doing it at a massive price, and they're doing it for the sake of keeping this government in power until 2025 so that they can ram some stuff through that is not...
For who? But who? Who wants to ram those things through?
Well, and this is where it gets conspiratorial. This is where it's like, okay, well,
are we really? At this point, are we really?
Are we really? Well, yeah, there are interests outside of
Klaus Schwab said, we have penetrated all the offices of this man's government. Like, he literally said that. So is it even a conspiracy anymore?
No, it's not. And it never was. I mean, it's a conspiracy, but not a theory, not a conspiracy. Yeah.
No, but he made it clear what their agendas are. Climate change, diversity and equity with George Soros. And that's it. We're going to fund all these things, dude.
Yeah, they want want a post nation state. That's what
and
they
chaos
want.
is the only way to get there.
There's like the open border society, or open what is it? Open something society. George
divide.
Soros. Yeah.
Right. You divide everybody into their little groups. It's easier to herd small groups of cattle than a full field of them, right?
Yeah. Well, you fracture people, and then they're easier to control. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and we're not talking lizard people. We're talking about corporatists.
Right? I was talking lizard people. Come on.
We're talking.
Have you seen our mayor?
We're talking elite corporatists
yes.
that have only one thing in mind: the bottom line. Tony Montana said this years before any of them. First, you get the money, then you get the power, and then you get the whatever. This has been.
You get the bitches, I think is what he said.
I didn't want to say it, man. I'm a Christian dude. I don't want to say stuff like that. But the point that I'm trying to make is, do you see how it is? This is how corrupt work. Money, power, and then whatever it is that you need also.
Yeah.
These guys are ideologically motivated, and they're basically, I mean, dude, last thing, Freeland wrote books, did documentaries against these elites.
Yeah, and then she got invited to the club, and then now she's like, wow, I'm not so against them anymore.
She got a big fat paycheck.
Now, look, she was railing against George Soros.
Yeah, she was.
George Soros probably met her and said, Feuderlein, why are you so angry? Why don't you come and eat with us and we will talk it over? And then after that, the whole thing changed. Like, we're best friends now.
Yeah, she flipped like 180.
Why don't you come to my hotel room and let me infiltrate your cabinet?
No.
So she wrote a book called Plutocrats: The Rise of the Super Rich and the Fall of Everyone Else. That was the name of her book she wrote as a journalist.
Made no money, dude. She wasn't making that cheddar. So she's like, I got to make this cheddar.
Well, she's doing better now that she's canceled her Disney Plus. I mean, they were struggling for a bit.
The point
it's a tough pill to swallow. I mean,
the point that I'm trying to make is, if your finance minister is going to go to Davos and be chummy with Schwab and Soros and Gates, there's no she's not going to be transparent and honest, but it's okay. Your puppet masters are very transparent and very honest because they say what they want to do. And all these inclusivities and all these things that we're all going through, guys, we're fighting this. I called it an indirect monopoly. See, a direct monopoly, there's laws against that. But what happens if you own a ton of assets through companies like BlackRock and all these, Vanguard, and you could just manipulate people through money? So here's Derek. By the way, Derek, I think you would be a great mayor in any city, honestly. Like, you're a stand-up guy.
Good, because if Calgary doesn't work out, I'll start picking other towns.
Come to Montreal. Come to Montreal. I'm serious. I'm serious.
I couldn't run in Montreal. Are you kidding? Come on.
Listen, all I'm saying is change your name to like Giroux or Yannick, and you'll be fine. So
I'm not defensive enough to be French.
So all I'm saying is this: we're all fighting this dogma and ideology. We think we're fighting people. These brands are scrapped. And honestly, the only thing that makes me sad is that, and I say this with all due respect, the conservative brand needs to change big time. The way I know this is I worked at TELUS when it came over to the West. It used to be in the East. It used to be in the West under George Cope. He was the CEO. And TELUS, I think it was called something Nantel or something. He got sold and converted the name to TELUS. A new CEO took over, Dude, this guy was a marketing genius. All the animals, you know, when you look at the TELUS ads, all the animals, all the
I never knew what that was
animals.
about.
No, but it's beautiful, right? It's eye-catching. It's green. Green is such a smart color for selling because green creates the peaceful moods.
It was the green and purple.
Yeah, it's all the perfect.
They came
colors.
out as the Joker.
Right.
Oh wow!
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't even think of that.
Now let me show you who was their main competitor at that time. It was Rogers. So they decided to ally with Bell to fight against Rogers. Michael Sabia, you've heard that name, right, Derek? Michael Sabia was the CEO of Bell at that time. He became part of the government of Trudeau. So when he quit, George Cope left TELUS, went to Bell, and you know what he did, Clyde? Because what was Bell's advertising back then? Polar bears and fucking.
I thought it was just you don't have another choice. Buy it.
No, the cell phones, mobilities, and all that stuff. So they had a beaver, but they didn't have like a beaver like a cool beaver.
Not
they
like
had a
Roots.
Beaver, like some. Yeah, no, they had a beaver like from 1989 or something, or 86, like really janky teeth.
I mean, it sold a lot of phones. Everybody likes putting a nice beaver up to their face.
Oh, okay. So dum ching. So what happened was when George Copin came in, all he did was this: get all this shit out of here, and he completely changed the face of Bell. Their prices went whoop up. Their income went through the roof when George Cope went in, but he had to clean out all the dust. I'm worried that the Conservative Party. I've looked at their branding. I like visually and the messaging.
Yeah.
I'm not impressed. I love Pierre.
They need a revamp.
I love Danielle. They don't need just a revamp visually. They need to get together and say, are we really unified?
Well, here's the thing. Like, I think that the Conservatives would do themselves a giant favor to try to help convince actual conservatives around the country, rather than being fighting against liberals, liberal voters, fight against the liberals, but encourage liberal voters that to understand that the conservative position is the position that they actually hold. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, what the conservatives are actually selling is what the liberals are trying to buy from the Liberal Party, but are never getting. And it's the conservatives that are there to offer it to them. That's what needs to be told to them. And this is what
more $175 barbecues. So, that's all they'll get it.
No, but the conservatives need to have armor, or not armor, but they need to have munitions in their arrows in their quiver to throw back at liberals, not to own people and not to shut them down and shut the conversations down, but to turn them around and say, hey, we're not fighting here. You're after the same thing I'm after. You just don't realize that you're being sold a bill of goods, man. You're being sold a bunch of crap, and you're being told that I'm your enemy, and I'm not your enemy. I'm your neighbor. I'm your townsman. I'm your countryman.
Clyde,
I'm not your buddy, guy.
Clyde, how many people do we have in our lives that are really good at telling us what's wrong?
My wife.
Everybody, yeah.
My wife.
So many people, yeah.
But how many people do you know not only can tell you what's wrong, but how to fix it?
Yeah, solutions are a difficult thing, and people don't come to the table with that often.
I'm worried, not worried like panicked. I'm worried that they're riding this is the problem with the liberals for too long.
Yeah.
I need to hear legitimate solutions to validate my purchase of this brand.
Understood.
I don't buy brands by saying, well, that was a piece of shit, so I'll just try this one.
Well, this is where I said that the environmentalists are leaving money on the table, like in this kind of currency, because they're leaving money on the table because they're coming with this climate change stuff, and everybody cares about the environment. They want a clean environment. Not everybody is on board with communism to save the weather. Like, everybody wants a clean environment, so they're leaving an opportunity for an entirely new market branding of an environmental movement that is anti global establishment that's trying to enslave everybody. Like,
listen, I'll say it out loud and publicly. The conservatives do not have the marketing IQ of the liberals. period.
Well, they come to the table with solutions, but
no,
they don't.
Marketing.
Yeah.
Coercion is a big part of marketing. How do I convince and coerce? And that's the thing. It's a very subtle art form where you are not just scaring people. You have to come off lovable.
Well, this is what I'm saying about the climate change activists. They've scared people long enough that people are starting to get put off by it. But there's enough. What was the term that you used for it? The like the seeds that you put out there. Where people have that. You've conditioned them over time to
prime them.
Yeah, they're all primed for an environmental movement, but they're looking for one that has answers that they can work within. A scenario that they can work within. If you come to them and you said, "Hey, we can save the environment, and at the same time, we can produce energy by burning garbage and doing it in a clean way, like other countries are doing, and show that the technology exists and it's capable and it's clean," then people will be on board with that. If you tell them, no, you're going to have to shut off the heat in your house and you got to starve and all this other stuff.
But Clyde, it's not that easy, because look what the Liberals did. They tethered multiple problems to multiple solutions.
Mm-hmm.
So if let's say Pierre attacks this in my policy, they've made it so that it conflates that he's attacking this thing in my policy. And if he touches this thing in my policy, what he's saying to all of you is that he doesn't believe in freedom and women's reproductive rights. I'm telling you, there's a level of IQ in their marketing. It's deceptive. Remember I told you on your episode, there's 2 ways to market?
Yes.
They're doing this where they're tying red tethers from issue to issue so that if you touch any of the spider web, everything vibrates.
Yes, and this is why I've been telling people, hey, there's a difference between drag and trans. They're doing it on purpose because they're putting the drag time story hours, introducing that to kids, and then the drag and the trans thing is a completely separate issue, but they're conflating the two, and they're hoping that people get confused.
But you got to go. But hold on. But you got to go further. So today, and stop me whenever you need, but I need to share this.
Okay.
I spent 6 hours, Derek, looking on StatsCan for just a simple metric. Can you show me the average household cost, a chart that plots the increase or decrease of households? It took me 4.5 hours. I didn't find a thing. If anything, on StatsCan, my God, on StatsCan, if anything, the talking points reflect like someone that's deflecting from the issue. So you ultimately end up at the HPI, the house pricing index. Why? Because it's nebulous and it's aggregated. So can't you just give me a simple metric? Then I
think honestly, you could have fixed that question real easy by just getting you a picture of somebody's kidney on a plate. But
right. But do you know the irony? I had to find out, and I shared this with you, Clyde. The parliamentary budget officer, the one that's hired by the governor general, he's the one that had to come out and say, yeah, he's doubled household debt. Now, the problem is if you talk about household debt, imagine how far that is from trans. They have found a way to link it to trans.
So when you talk about brands, you know what I think would help a lot in this country is if we went similar to America where it was term limits. I think when you look at Trudeau and the brand of the Liberals, and when you look at Pierre and what they're doing, I think if we had term limits, you'd at least have different representatives to pick from. And I think it's the same thing when you look at Harper's era, and there's a lot of negativity against Harper, and I'm not defending the deals that Harper made because a lot of them were bad, but I think if you had to switch it up, if you had to get a new face in there every 8 years, you wouldn't have situations with Trudeau where they're just riding the horse till the wheels fall off and digging their brand further and further. And I'm not wanting to advocate for the Liberals, but think about this. When Trudeau's gone, how long is it going to take that party to restructure and rebuild?
Like, they won't. I think they'll be gone. I think they'll be completely gone. No, I think they'll be so gone, or they will be irrelevant like the Greens.
Maybe
because you have to No, but you have to understand why. You have to understand why. I think what's also happening in the dynamics of the party that none of us are seeing is that there's a lot of threat and intimidation. This is the part that we don't see. You're only seeing the smiles and the heads nodding. You don't know in the back if Trudeau is telling them, listen, you mofo, if you do this one more time, I'm going to expose this and say, you don't know.
But we
right?
are, we,
So
we do see little windows into this
himself.
stuff, like Jody Wilson-Raybould and what she's let the public know.
And what was that? What was that African Canadian girl that you had the video of her when she came out and he started telling her like, I can't have you leave, like can't have me leave. Like, who are you? Like, who are you?
Yeah, he said to her, you can't leave yet. You'll have to wait it out a little bit because it'll look bad having two women of color leaving in the same amount, in the little same area of time.
And then he told her, like, I did all these things for you. And she's like, what? Like, what do you, like, see, that's the thing. I think there's entire dynamic.
But he tokenized her. Like, he absolutely tokenized her. It's gross.
What I'm telling you both is, and if I'll stop talking about the Liberals and Trudeau for a second, but understand that this brand, there's a word for it. It's starting to eat itself from within. And Trudeau is now reaching notice for people that were not part of his cabinet. They're like his wild cards. I need Rouleau. I need Johnston. I need Yakabuchi. I need this guy. I need this guy. Well, what happens if a actual investigation into the Trudeau Foundation happens? This immediately implicates all of them.
All of them, yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So if it's rotting from the Liberal Party.
He's digging them deeper. Rotting. He's putting them in a position.
That's it. What do you think is going to happen at some point? If this gets closer and closer and closer, the people with the real say, not Trudeau, this is a rookie. The people with the real power are going to say, hey, my friend, it's enough now. Okay? And he's going to say, yes, sir. That's it. That's how it ends. You think Pierre Trudeau took his long walk as just Pierre Trudeau's conscience? No. No. There's a lot of heavy people behind all these people. And if they say get the step in, you get the step in. And so I think what's happening is, and it's so bizarre that it happened this way, that the Trudeau Foundation should be the downfall of the Trudeau government.
Yeah.
Yep.
And this is why I say, again, I'm doubling down on this concept, is that the Jagmeet Singh, who's part of the World Economic Forum, just like Chrystia Freeland, Trudeau, and a lot of these people, he joined that coalition to keep them in power because it's their only shot to push along a bunch of policies before the brand is tarnished so bad that they won't have a shot at it again for a long time.
Well, what do you think, Derek? You think they're going to be able to survive this?
No.
Do you think they could survive a year, like before 2024?
Well, I think they're going to survive until the next election because Jagmeet's made it very obvious he just wants his pension.
So that's what everybody says. It's about the pension. I think it's about so much more. A pension is where it's like,
I think it's about
you
more.
Think he's not getting paid way more than that
equation.
pension? Do you think? Like,
there's
big
more.
Time.
I'm
big
saying
time.
it's part of the equation. I'm not saying it's the whole.
Well, can I ask you a question? Can I ask you both a question? Because you know politics better than me. Okay, we may not be able to have a federal election, but can the NDP right now, Derek, say, hey, dude, we're done with you now? Or
they can, but they won't.
Hold on. Are you saying that if a bunch of people with pitchforks and blowtorches or whatever you want to call them come to his house and say, we no longer want you to be the leader, can it literally end today, for example?
No, because here's the thing. So the NDP operate differently than other parties.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know.
What a lot of people don't realize is that if Rachel Notley wins the election in Alberta, that technically means that Jagmeet Singh's in charge of it.
Yes, that's correct.
It's the thing about their party and the thing about Jagmeet Singh is that we've already had people at his office with signs screaming things, yelling at him, and he just calls them all racists and gets in his car and drives off.
We've seen the Sikh community. Is what I'm saying.
Well, the Sikh community chased him off too. Like it's the problem is he doesn't. It's you already hit it on the head that they're just going to put everything through they can because they know they're done. So if Jagmeet turns around at any point,
I don't know if there's a mechanism within their own constitution.
That's it. That's what I'm asking.
Yeah, I don't.
If he were to turn around and do a complete 180 and say, you know what, we're done. We're going to prop up the conservatives because, we don't like the Chinese interference, and I'm running on that because Jugmeat's already just showed his disdain for the Chinese interference. So if he said, well, I don't like that there's no inquiry, I don't like the way it's been handled, I don't like the conflicts of interest.
Just wait. Explain this to me.
It's not going to be enough.
I'm a layman. I know there's a mechanism for federal elections. I don't understand how you remove. Let's say we don't want Poilievre anymore.
Yeah. Okay.
What's the mechanism that we take to remove Poilievre?
So it's within the party, right? So each party has a constitution, and they have a set of rules on how to vote in, when an election is called, for a leadership, all of that stuff, right? So when O'Toole stepped down as leader of the Conservatives, they had a certain amount of time allotted to organize an election. And that's why Candice Bergen was the
But what?
intern.
Hold on. But what made him step
I'm
down?
getting there. So I'm not sure what if like they want to push him out. If they want to push out, I don't know what the mechanisms are for that. Normally, what happens is somebody steps down out of either shame or out of old age, and then they go through the process of bringing in the next one. If somebody is unfit for service and refuses to step down, I don't know what the mechanisms. And we were talking about the mechanisms within the government. Now we're talking about parties, which come up with their own they have their own constitutions.
Their own policies.
What Derek
let me ask you a question.
Just a second. When Derek was what he was referring to about Jagmeet Singh by de facto running Alberta if Notley gets in, is because in their constitution they have a hierarchy that the leader of the party is the leader of all the NDP, regardless of if they're national or if they're provincial. He's the leader, and they got to go by his diktats.
So that was my question. If all, and I know this isn't probably an impossibility, but Derek, can you imagine a situation where all the riding and their constituents, for whatever reason, they all show up to their MPs and say, that guy out. When they go back to their when they go back to their meeting, that MP, he must speak for his constituents, correct?
Theoretically, but they won't. Tell me the last time you've seen.
So he will within the
cares about their constituents.
He will within the party voice his concerns, but then the leader can just squash it because.
So what if the whole party? Hold on. What if the whole party raises all the MPs in that NDP say
he'll answer it with 3 words? I don't care.
Well, no.
No.
So we don't know what the mechanisms are within the NDP government. Within the
NDP.
That's fascinating. Yeah, within the NDP party.
Because in my head, there should be a mechanism as a fail-safe should we ever land on somebody that is unethical and unwilling to step down.
But we can see within our own government that there is no mechanism apart from the King of England or the Governor General to get rid of a prime minister if there's a coalition of the killing, as Norman Spector called it. It's awful, and the King of England is on board with this whole WEF agenda thing as well himself.
It's scary when you think back to the Paul Martin days or Jean Chrétien. It took one scandal to bring those guys down. And now 7 in 7 years and nothing, crickets. Like the government investigates the government. It's scary to think of where we're at. Right.
Yeah,
it's really scary to think that how much worse. And that's the question that keeps getting asked is how much worse can it get? And I don't know if I want to see that.
Yeah, I don't want to get there.
So hold on. Are you both saying that there is literally no mechanism?
No, I'm saying I don't know what the mechanism is.
No, but let's assume for now that no one knows if there is a mechanism that defends the people of a nation that are being oppressed by perceived corruption.
So Alberta has introduced recall legislation. We have that provincially to protect its citizens should the but much like the shenanigans that go on the federal level, like even in our city, people are mad at Jody Gondek, and it takes 130,000 signatures to begin the recall process, and nobody wants to sign those papers. Mm-hmm. So even though those things are in place, it's how do you get the people off their butts?
I'm asking, do you guys think that So this is where it's curious, because you guys have heard of the Geneva Convention.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do Canadians now have to appeal to an international body to say, please get us out of this?
But it's who's going to put that through. It's the same as Trudeau
No,
was
but-
talking
but-
about electoral reform at one point when he was running. You remember
They'll
those
call
days
you
when he says, "Oh, we
seditionists if you did that too."
yeah, we need electoral reform," and then he got in and realized he'd lose all of his seats if he went through with electoral reform. So I'm not going to touch that.
No,
It's
but
suicide.
I'm asking a question. If let's say a round number, let's say 10 million signatures get sent to this Geneva Convention organization and say, this is our argument, this is what we need you to examine, because our government is intrinsically corrupt. We don't trust anyone within the parties. Does the Geneva Convention, and this is just me asking, do they have the actual power to step in and fix? They don't.
No.
They can just assess. They can assess.
Well, they can give their 2 cents, but it's not going to change.
So there is no world body, I don't know, something that can step in to help countries.
So they are trying to assemble some world bodies in order to, be able to step in and take charge in situations, but not the situation that you're talking about. They're trying to. There's the WHO, the World Health Organization treaty that they're trying to make legally binding now. The one that was like the WHO can come in and basically be our new Theresa Tam. We don't need Theresa Tam anymore. The WHO's gonna do it, and we're gonna have to go by their guidelines, and it'll be legally binding. These are the things that they are trying to push forward, and this is what globalism is, and this is what people are arguing against. And again, the branding. Getting back to the branding thing, when you say globalism, people on the left, what they hear is either one of two things: conspiracy theory, or this guy doesn't like global trade. They don't like the fact that I can get stuff from, India or China or around the world. They don't like that. And that's not the truth. That's the brand, that's the counter branding that's been going on and being pushed.
Derek, I spent a month in the Canary Islands when I was 26. There was a pickpocketing epidemic that was happening, probably still going on. Do you know that they became so crafty? Do you know what they do? They would walk up to you.
They work for government.
They're the best pickpockets.
Do you know what he did? No, but hold on, because they started realizing some people were putting the money taped to their chest or whatever. So now what they do is they would walk up to people and just pretend to be giving them money in their pockets.
Yes.
Okay. And while he was putting like $200 in your pocket, in his mind, you probably have a Visa. And at that second, that Visa gets taken out, copied, and put back. Okay, before you realize it, because this person's keeping you distracted. They would give out like $500, $200 to people just to tell them like, this is who we are. We're very friendly. We are very giving. They'd buy them hotel things. All this was the grift. They'd give them something because they knew that they were going to jack them for a lot more. Now, does this mean every single person was jacked the same? I mean, they could have taken my credit card. It was maxed. But that's like the point that I'm trying to make is I don't think these people that hear globalists see this transaction. Of course, they're going to give you something because they're going to take something.
They're busy with the
more.
distraction. I get what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think guys like Derek is exactly what we need: a fresh voice, honest fight.
Thank you.
But I'm serious. But I wonder. Have people been so primed that you come off as an enemy, not as the friend? Like, can you imagine turning Iron Man into the enemy? Can you imagine turning Superman into the enemy and making the Joker the hero? Because that's where we are. We're in Arkham right now. People don't realize this. The politics and social culture in Canada is becoming Arkham City.
Our cities are Gotham at the moment. Where criminals
They really
are running
are.
around free. They don't, they get arrested. They get thrown right back out on
All
the
the
street.
politicians are corrupt.
And just watch.
Side deals.
In Calgary streets, it's going to change. Because I'm Batman.
Well, Batman was a vigilante due to the law.
Hey, there was actually, did you guys see that tweet? There was this American dude that walked in through San Francisco and he says, "Man, y'all need Batman. Like this place is so bad, y'all need Batman."
You don't need Jesus, you need Batman.
Did you see that tweet?
No, I didn't.
Did you see that tweet?
Y'all need
it's the
Batman. That's
funniest thing.
hilarious.
Y'all need Batman. So, no, I'm sick to my stomach, but I think I'm encouraged by the fact that the Liberal Party is imploding and decaying from within, because I think what's happening is that they're all realizing this ship is going to sink one way or another, and none of us are going to have careers after this. See, they're all, what's his name? Anthony Housefather, you know, the guy that sat down and tried to explain to everybody, hey, yeah, okay, the contracts weren't legit. The reason we can't make you see it because they were tested too quick. All these things, right?
Yeah.
But now, did you see that he's been getting into a disagreement with Trudeau on a bunch of stuff? Right? Did you see it?
No,
you should
I
look
didn't
it
see
up.
that.
Anthony Housefather is disagreeing with Trudeau on English in Quebec. Okay, so watch that. So you can do that, but I think what's going to happen is, and Derek, correct me if I'm wrong, the Liberals are all the people that are in the party are going to say, we're not going to have careers after this, bro.
Mm-hmm. Well, they've probably already come to that. If they're somewhat intelligent, they've already come to that realization.
Yeah, but this is what's scary, because if they realize that they're not going to have careers, they're going to try to usurp as much
get very
wealth
reckless
as they can, and they're going to get super reckless, and they're just going to do the dirtiest stuff for the next until 2025. Like it's going to get worse. It's going to get way worse.
Mm-hmm.
Unbelievable. Anyway, we've been chatting about this stuff for a little bit. I'm going to get to some of the super chats that came in while we were chatting here. How far back do I have to go? I'm not sure. I've got Ian Bridges, the $6.99 super chat, says, I don't think Alberta election will be as close as the legacy media is making it out to be. UCP for the win, he says. I'm sure a lot of us feel that way, but you know, it's really tight in Calgary. That's like kind of the stomping grounds.
It's north of the Bow River, so the problem's immigration, and I don't mean that from a racial standpoint. It's that a lot of the immigrants vote Trudeau, they vote NDP. I'll tell you right now, when you see what's on Twitter, when you see what's on all the social media about the NDP gaining seats, I see a lot of orange signs in town, and it's scary.
Yeah.
It's honestly got me worried a little bit, but we'll see.
Jesse M says for $6.99, finally caught a live stream. Huge fan from Ontario. Keep fighting the good fight. You're my favorite alternative media channel on YouTube. Thank you so much, Jess M. Chris B says for $2.79, love that all three of you are here. Awesome. With a big thumbs up. Funis saying, what a bunch of Canadian champs on stream tonight. Is there any chance you can watch or comment on John Julian's Trudeau Paradise? Oh, the Coolio Paradise. Yeah.
That was, it's okay.
It's okay. It was good. It was good.
It was good. I liked it.
I liked it. I'm afraid of getting a big copyright strike in the middle of the live stream. I don't know. I heard Coolio is not so. He's a little more litigious about that stuff. Did you hear what was it?
No, Coolio passed away.
What?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I did not know that. Anyway. But back in the day,
he had a problem with Gangsters.
Yeah,
Paradise being parodied by Weird Al.
Amish Paradise from Weird Al, and
yeah,
like you know the what do you call it? The record industry, the record label that owned it was like, yeah, go ahead. He was really pissed off apparently.
And Coolio said no.
Yeah, but okay, another super chat, $11 super chat from Funis. Federal government manipulating provincial votes with federal agenda to weaponize and dump migrants in the sanctuary cities to overrule the will of the province. Minimum 5 to 10 years residency before it's legal to vote, ? Should there be a time period? I think there is an amount of time that you have to become a voter. You have to be a citizen, do you not? Or is that... in provincial elections, don't you have to be a citizen? I thought you did.
Oh yeah, you can't vote.
Yeah, but it's a matter of, so when I say immigration, it's how long the people have been here, if they're registered at this point, if they're landed immigrants. It's and somebody even said it in the chat, if you go to the northeast section of town, it's orange. Like everywhere.
Yeah, but it's 6 years before you can get your citizenship. 6 years as a permanent resident, right?
But Trudeau's also been in for 8 years coming up.
Can I say something, Derek? I don't know anything about where the elections are. I see only Twitter, but can I tell you something? Something in me that I've been noticing is that all the UCP supporters, they don't just want to win. They want to win big and make a statement.
Yes, it sets a precedent.
Right. And I think the panic shouldn't be there. I'm trying to encourage you. I think you're going to win. What you're going to have time after you win is to figure out how you have been hydrated over the past 2 years.
What I see happening in Alberta is it's similar to what's happening in Texas with California. Is you got a lot of these people that live in BC, that live in Ontario, and all these other places where they support NDP, where they support Liberal, coming out here and trying to, we want to change things. And you're crushing the economy, right? You're crushing jobs. You're screwing people over for the sake of, I've got a friend whose wife works in education. Well, Rachel supports education. I said, even if your wife gets a raise by voting NDP, the taxes they bring in are going to screw you guys on the other side. You're not going to see a gain. Like it's people aren't thinking clearly when they vote, and they're not educated.
Because Rachel Notley supports education. Is that to say that Danielle Smith wants to get rid of education? Like, no, they just have different ideas.
Well, they don't see as much funding.
Yeah, well, maybe they will see better uses of the money, and it won't need as much funding. And these are the conversations that people aren't having. They're just having rhetorical talking points thrown back at each other. I'm not your buddy guy with a 550 super chat says, great panel. I truly hope the tide turns, but pathway to true salvation is through culture. I agree with that. I'm a big proponent of Andrew Breitbart and his concept that culture, politics is downstream from culture, and we really have to grab a hold of the culture and teach people these lessons and change things at a cultural level before the politicians will actually follow suit. Because I think the politicians are more worried about poll numbers than they are and getting elected in the next election. If we have a solid culture of people, that's definitely a point. And there's always
there's a slight problem with that. And if you don't mind me sharing, it comes out of a little bit of my faith, my Christian faith. And I'm not going into preaching. I'm just explaining there's a process. So the idea is Christ was like the most righteous person, and it was people who felt they were more righteous than him that killed him. Do you understand?
Yeah.
The issue of the culture is that the powers that be have convinced them that this nefariousness and malfeasance is actually righteous. And then the real righteous people get persecuted.
Yeah.
So you have self-righteous people who believe and are deluded that they're righteous, fighting for equality and equity, while at the same time yelling at the top of their lungs while their medial nerve is popping out of their throat, saying, I'm intolerant. You're intolerant. Like you see, like the very act that you're doing this demonstrates a form of self-righteousness that you can't see yourself. Like Notley goes around, and I've been examining her Twitter. The level of self-righteousness and tone deafness is incredible. Dude, Derek, I don't know if you know this. Her tweets are all still there since 2009.
Okay? She hasn't deleted anything.
I went through every one of them, every month, every day, and I looked at everything she said. There's this consistent, I'm good, I'm the answer, I'm the Messiah, I'm this. How dare you? You know who changed? Let me tell you who changed. Gondik changed. Because if you go back into her like Twitter, she was a totally normal girl.
She used to prop up oil and gas.
Yeah, dude, she was conservative. Did you know she was part of the Conservative Party?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
What?
Yeah, she was on city council before she was mayor.
Yeah. And she was like, no, but some of the stuff she said, like, I'm going with the boys to watch the football game. Yeah. Can't wait to buy my new pumps. Life is filled with errors. We all got to try harder. Life ain't always fair. Like, she was a realist. And then something went click, clack, clack, and she just changed. And then you're like, was it cha-ching or clack, clack, clack? Which one was it?
It was opportunity and money. That's all
it's like a cattle turn style. It's a rusty clunk clunk. It's more like
yeah, because I was like, but see, Notley from the get-go, she was about trans rights, inclusion. She would go to schools and preach this. So she wasn't saying anything new.
Jordan Peterson was saying on Sunday he grew up in the same town as Notley, knew Notley's folks. Rachel Notley's mother was a librarian at his school and got him into reading a lot of philosophy books and things like that. And he says Rachel's been the same since they were kids. And he says, I wouldn't trust her back then as much as I'd trust her now. She's worthless. Like he really gave an in-depth description of Rachel Notley. And it's like, she just hasn't changed. She's still the same 10-year-old girl that she always was, just now she's got more ability to spread her opinion.
Honestly,
around.
all of her tweets are me. Even when she says you, she's saying me.
Yeah.
It's just like Trudeau.
Well, you're getting Trudeau if you vote for Notley. Let's just put it there. Anyway, hey, so we got to wrap this up. And hey, I mean, I could talk all night with you guys, and we probably will. We'll probably end up over in the Discord chatting with a bunch of other people, give other people a chance to chime in on all this conversation. But this is great. I love having a panel. I love having this kind of discussion where it's not just one-on-one, but a little bit more of a bouncing of ideas. And this is great. Hopefully we can, in the future, maybe coax some people who have opposite opinions or just differing opinions to us to come on. Much welcome. It's really hard to get people to do that, though. It really is. So I'm gonna work.
Listen, this is my house now. I'm coming here anytime you want.
For sure. And look forward to, I'll be doing another stream with Derek live from the arcade at the beginning of July. That'll be on the 7th of July, because I'll be out there doing Stampede for the very first time.
I thought you were going to mention Monday.
Monday. Oh, yes, Monday. Monday will be on your channel. Sorry, there's a lot going on. Okay, so Monday for the election coverage, post-election coverage, we'll be talking about who won. Be myself, Derek. We'll also have Keith Wilson, the very famous lawyer that a lot of people on this channel know about and know who he is. But if you don't, he's an amazing constitutional lawyer here in Canada, standing up for people's rights. And he'll be joining on that, and he's very familiar with Alberta politics as well. So really looking forward to that.
Yep. And I'm working on a few others. I think we might get Marty up north chiming in from time to time. Some other guests that might line up for that broadcast. But all starts at 8 p.m., 7 p.m. Pacific. As soon as the polls close, we'll start covering all that. And I look forward to seeing everybody there.
Brilliant. And Vesper D, thanks again so much for coming in, bring your excellent insight on marketing, how branding works, how all of this, and giving us a clearer picture of what it is that's going on behind the scenes and how they come up with these decisions.
I just want to say something publicly to the Conservative Party. I'll look straight at the camera. Work on your branding. It takes you guys getting together to define a personality. It has to be bigger than just one man. That's it.
And if you want to reach out to Vesper, call me, I guess, or contact him through social media. You can check out his Twitter page where he's taking on the Trudeau dynasty, I guess, all on his own, and made it a mission, and with a clear goal and an end. And that's what I really appreciate what you're doing. A clear goal and an end. When Trudeau's gone, that Twitter page is gone.
So get all the free art, and while you can.
Talented man, go check him out. Follow him.
Yes, free memes for everybody. Go take them. But here's the end of the show. We're gonna wrap it up and hopefully see you guys over in the Discord. And yeah, that's it. Keep on trucking.